Podcast.
Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic and its community. I'm Bobby, also known as Blazzinbob. And once again, Mel, aka Melarina, is not here. This is a first 3 weeks in a row. She's done 2 weeks in a row before, but 3 weeks in a row. It's hard, guys. I'm barely getting the show together, if I'm being honest with you. Been traveling a lot. I've been in 7 major cities in the last 2 weeks for at least a few hours, and I'm traveling again next week. Melissa's traveling this week too. She leaves Wednesday. She's going to be raiding, from the hotel. Like, she's got a lot going on, so there's just no way she could get in here for this. And yeah, we're really tired. So sorry about that, but we bring a awesome cast to you. We have TableSlam. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good. Thanks for coming. And we have IAmLubes, the Lubinator, Lube-tastic.
The Lubinator. The Lubinator. That one might have to stick. I enjoy that. Thanks for having me, Bob.
Hey, thanks for coming. And for the first time on the show, we have Arcos. You might have heard him on Countdown to Classic many times, complaining about Warriors or getting in a fight with Josh. But now he has his face reveal live here on the show. Welcome to the show, Arcos.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming. All right, guys. This is going to be a fun show. If you are a Cata lover, we're probably going to talk a little bit about Cata, but I wouldn't bank on a ton of it. So if SoD, Season Discovery, is not your bag, maybe this isn't the show for you. And, I was just trying to help you out. So hopefully you stick around, even if, you're not into SoD, but that's probably going to be the gist of it. I'd like to start the show off by thanking our tank patrons in Croxford, Turtle Whale, and Braxton. Thank you guys. You guys give a ton of support that helps keep this thing going. Thank you guys so much. And thank you to all the other patrons. Anybody who joins the patrons, it says you get the early episode, and like everybody gets an ad-free episode. So $5, you get ad-free. So join us and help us out there. We stream the show live on twitch.tv/Blazzinbob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. We're still on the new YouTube channel. It's still getting about the same views as we did before, but we need the subs. We need more subs, guys. We're creeping up on 1,000, and we need to hit that 1,000 mark. So please help us with that. For Warcraft Rumble, guys, we got 5 spots open in the Warcraft Rumble Guild, and it's a pretty thriving guild. We've recently run into a problem where there's 2-player content now, and it's kind of hard to there's no way to ping anybody within the game or anything to set up matches. So we've created a spot in the WCR Discord and a role for people to ping, and ping just people with that role, so you guys can get in on that 2-player content, because Mel and I have done it all so far and been having a blast with it, but we're in the same house. It's a lot easier. So anybody interested, all that we ask is that you just when the guild reward stuff's up, you contribute to it. It's really easy for any average new player or anything. So please maybe join us there. It's WCR Space Podcast is the name of the guild. Then Discord server, Patreon, all of our links to everything is at warcraftreloaded.com. You'll see them all there at the top of the page. Join us and come hang out with us in different ways. We're going to start the show with comment of the week. Then we're going to do we're going to do a voicemails. Then we're going to do Discord questions. The voicemail number, if you guys don't know, is 816-866-1066 or speakpipe.com/Warcraft Reloaded. Then we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing and then a bunch of news. And that's going to be the show, guys. So we got a lot to cover, and let's jump into it. So, yeah, Table, the creator of the comment of the week. Do you want to read both of these comments, and then we'll kind of talk about them in tandem because they kind of go together?
Yeah, they're related enough. Yeah. Yeah, sure. We got a question or a comment from ZDubs1280. If the content is made or is meant to be made for progression, world buffs do not mesh with that. Having one idiot wipe your raid, failing a mechanic ruins the night and makes progression harder. I think if you should get the world buffs, they last all week while in the raid. Interesting take. And then the second one is from Draka's HC 7113. It says people are going to hate the different heat modes. Casual and dad gamers going to quit when they won't get in a pug without world buffs and gray/green parses. I love SoD, but this is probably the worst decision. We just want to go into the raid, drink a beer, and get free loot. If I want hard raids, I play retail or even Cata.
Okay, so this does...
Parts of that confuse me. Some of that, I don't know what some of that means.
Which one? The second one?
Yeah, like what does heat modes mean? I don't know what he means by that.
Okay, so you've been deep into Cata, and the heat modes have showed up in the PTR, and you can change heats for like Molten Core to heat level 2 and heat level 3. And there hasn't been any confirmation, but what people are thinking is it's different difficulty modes in Classic, and so there's two parts to this. Like, I think he's right in the fact that world buffs are really going to I think they're cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, I used to hate them and think that they just shouldn't be in the game when we were ending Classic, but later on I came to find that I actually really like them. But at the same time, they are a shit ton of extra work for anybody wanting to get in, and with gatekeeping, people will, like, I'm pretty lax in my raid. Like, I'm like DMF, the week of, where it's in Torrid Mill, or the week after, because you should have been at our raids on Wednesday. You should have been able to re-up your buff and boot it before, but like, there's really only 3 world buffs at the moment. Like, it's going to be really taxing for the average player. I'm thinking about a friend of mine, Brandon, who has quit through phase 3 because phase 3 was a little too much. Like, there's no way he'd come back and get all of these buffs. And so it's just like, do we need to look at a different way to do these buffs? And this guy had an idea, the first comment, that you go out and you earn it every week. You do the thing, but then you just have the buff from that point on in raid, period. Whether you wipe, there's no timer, nothing. Like, there's nobody like trying to pressure you to go fast. Like, dude, pull, buffs ticking. Buffs aren't ticking, right? So like, it might cause less drama there with like slower moving groups. Like, it sounded like kind of a cool idea to me. And I think he's right. I think the world buff meta will really hurt the growth of phase 4. But I don't know if it just should be like, we get them, they're still timered. We get them at a certain times, like in major cities or something, or buy them with currency, or, you get from dungeons or whatever. But there needs to be an easier way, I think, to do it. What do you guys think?
With the idea of them being just in the raid, like while in the raid, I don't know if I like that, because like, it's so fun. Like, you're a level 15 warrior, you'll scoot into Stormwind, or you'll scoot into Orgrimmar, get a big old fat buff, and then you'll go out and level with it and feel crazy powerful. So I don't know if like in the raid they're only active. I don't know if I like that, but I agree. There's got to be some sort of way.
You could leave it to where like you still get that buff outside, but it runs out, and also you lose it when you die. But there's a little tick on your name. So when you go into raid, you still have it.
Okay.
Like I always say, don't change, add to, always leave the, just say with rune catch-up, always leave the way to get it in before and just have it be a boon to be able to get it earlier or blah, blah, blah. But don't take out the old way.
I don't know how hard this would be to do, but like you notice that like when you boon world buffs, you get a separate like item in your bag called a turbocharged chrono boon displacer. Be interesting if there was like a vendor at the beginning of every raid that would trade you unlimited versions of the buffs if you trade them a turbocharged chrono boon displacer. So like you boon all your buffs and then you use that becomes currency to buy unlimited versions that don't fall off when you die from the vendors inside the raid.
Or even if they did fall off when you die, you like take the portal back in, hop by the vendor, grab your world buffs again, and then you pull again. That's kind of a rad idea.
I don't know. I haven't really put a lot of thought. I literally just came up with the idea, so it could probably be refined, but like the fact that booning your world buffs gives you an item, like you could probably use that for some sort of currency thing to like make it a little less painful, I suppose. But like that's kind of going along with the the no duration thing from the first comment about how it just lasts while. But like if you have them out in the world, they should still have a timer. So if you want to go like do stuff, if you want to like get super juiced and go farm some stuff, you want to go farm ice giants in Winter Spring or something like that solo, you get world buffs to go do that. There's still a timer, and then you could just boon them when they're about to fall off, just boon them and then go into raid, trade that for your unlimited version, and then you don't have to go through the entire process again. You can still use your world buffs in the world to actually play the game, and then you just boon them, and then you get unlimited versions while you're in the raid.
You could even turn them into an item to where you buy an item that boons buffs to an item. And then you'd have people that make their whole living just getting full world buffs, booting it to an item, full world buffs, booting it to an item, and then selling it on the auction house.
Man, those would sell. People don't want to go out and get world buffs.
Yeah, I mean, those would definitely sell. And it would it would still leave a market open for someone to do that process. I don't know. Or you could even just have separate ones boon to different items, and so they'd just be a consumable. But then you'd have hunters who'd be getting DMFs over and over again to try and like sell those, right? It'd be interesting. But
when you say separate items, you mean like a separate chrono boon for each world buff? You mean like that?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be a chrono boon. It wouldn't be booning it to you. It'd be booning it into the item, and then the item would be tradable.
The item would become like a consumable.
Mm-hmm. That could be cool. And then you could come with, I'm like, all right, I got 3 world buffs tonight. I can go a little crazy. Because like
I can see that turning into
world
people
buffs
like
too hard. Often, you don't push them hard enough oftentimes because you don't want to die.
I could see that end up turning into something like somebody's holding their fucking Ani head hostage and they demand to be paid to drop the Ani buff because they know people are gonna boon it and then sell it.
I mean, they already held it. Buffs. They already held it and would sell it. Like that was like
selling world buffs.
Dude, that was rampant in 2019. If Ani heads sold were rampant, and then selling Rend buff to Alliance, like that cost a fortune back in OG Classic.
Or like somebody would like level a Horde priest to go reset the world buffs in the Alliance cities, and they would get paid to do that.
I just think we need something because we need something to make it a little bit more streamlined. And people will make it streamlined and better for us. Like the Warlock summoning groups were good. Like you would get summoned in, get your buffs. Like it's even easier now to be able to boon them, and then you can get out easier. Like you can boon before you even leave. And then, then when you arrive, you don't get them dispelled immediately. Like, so I don't know. I just feel like there needs to be some of this. Arcos, you've been quiet.
Yeah, I'm all the way on the other side of the fence to you guys. So I just wanted to let you guys live in the fantasy world together for a second.
You're like
Well,
super
hit
pro
us.
world buff?
Yeah, I want my world buffs the way they were in 2019, but I understand that a lot of the player base has gone ultra soft since then, and they need some kind of protection. So we have the Chronoboon. I think that's enough. Don't think you need more.
Well, let
It
me
just feels
shoot
like
you with
SoD
this.
is like super streamlined
Yeah,
all
that
the way up
was
until now. And I feel like if they kept world buffs how they were at 60, it's kind of going anti-SoD.
I'm kind of with you,
I don't mind
Arcos, if we're talking like a 2-year vanilla proper release, right? I'm pretty much with you on keep them the same. I'm just talking about this like speedier timeline. Is there anything that you would accept making it easier? Like, did you like any of the ideas we popped out?
If the seasonal server was known to be 4 months, 6 months, something like that, sure. I would be happy to make concession for the buffs, whether that be they just drop every 1 hour, every 2 hours, whatever. Like you buy them off a vendor, don't care. But like saying that you want more protection because it's a seasonal server, like you need to consider that this phase that we're in right now has been longer than phase 1 of Classic 2019. Like we've already been doing this for 6 months. If we consider that
Wait, you mean phases?
Phases,
you mean the whole of SoD? You mean the whole of SoD, right? Not just phase
the
3.
whole of SoD has been the whole of SoD has been 6 months.
Yeah.
We've been playing this seasonal server for 6 months, but phase 3 has been longer than phase 1 of Classic 2019. Like we got phase 2 in December, I think it was, or like early December.
Is that right?
Probably earlier, because it was launched in August. We had like 2 months of no PvP, and then PvP opened, and then a few weeks later AV opened.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was a different there was a lot of phases in original. Was it like
so if you consider that we're getting phase 4, so if you consider that we're getting phase 4 soon, TM, like in the next few weeks, wouldn't we expect the 60 content with possibly a new raid? Like they have teased it, so we can, I think, safely assume that there will be some type of new raid, whether that be 10, 20, 40 months, doesn't matter. Wouldn't you expect that to last 6 to 9 months? And if so, the entirety of SoD would not be far off 2 years. Like it would be around 18, 19 months. So if you consider all of these, and here there are assumptions here, right? Because we have no idea how long it will last. But if we assume that it's going to be 18 months at the minimum, I don't think you can make the argument that it's such a short seasonal server, we should have protection. I feel that argument is out the window if we're playing for 18 months.
See, the only thing that I would say that I think they are making it fast is just the one random comment a few weeks back from Agren talking about Molten Core coming out. Then a few weeks later, BWL, and I was like, a few weeks, holy shit. Yeah. So I think that might have been a mistype or something. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe they just want to combine raid phases, because they've seen, for example, like phase 3 drops off so fast when you only have one raid to do and it's super easy and there's so much gear dropping. Maybe they're thinking we should perhaps combine the raid tiers, like tier 1 and 2, into a short phase with one raid and then a longer combined phase where you're doing both of the raids, right? So instead of having 2 months of MC and then 2 months of Blacking Lair, maybe you get 1 month of MC and then 3 months of both together, 2 months of both together, like something like that.
That's what I suggested was possibly a thing. Like when he first brought that out, I was like, well, maybe tier 1 is going to be spread across Molten Core and BWL, because they're redoing all the tier stuff and they're planning, I believe they're planning on another raid after Nax, so, or in between Nax or something. Like, so I don't, like, I think that is a possibility that they're, it's not really going to be a phase. It's just going to be a new raid that opens.
So do you mean like the gear that drops in MC and BW will be from the same like relative power level.
I think it could be possible, but just
instead of having tier 2 drop from BWL, like having tier 1 drop from both Molten Core and BWL.
Yeah, and then some pieces of tier 2 trickling in at the end, you know.
Well, like tier 2 legs drop from Rag, tier 2 helm from Ani, so like there was a little bit of that already.
I could see that like kind of like going into it, but yeah, I'm not sure. I do agree that might possibly be a thing.
It'd be interesting. I never even thought of that as a possibility.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, to Arcos' point, like, yeah, like I the thing that I said about the Chrono Boon, you know, being a currency thing, like, I don't know if I necessarily would actually want that to happen. That was just an idea that I came up with to go along with what they were saying.
I'm
but
not for spitballing ideas, man.
Yeah, I think I would argue, like, to go along with what you said, like with not needing the protection thing. I would even argue that like giving us DMF every 2 weeks instead of once a month, I think like that's protection in a way. Where like if you die with your DMF, then like oh well, I guess I'll just go get it again in 2 weeks instead of in a month.
Yeah,
like that's protection.
Well, and then you think about it.
I haven't raided without DMF since phase 1.
Same.
Same.
I mean,
in every single raid,
I've had.
It's just welfare world buffs, and I don't think we need more of it. I think we need more friction to keep players engaged, not just hand everything out on a platter. So, like, I understand that it sucks for people when they wipe and they lose their buffs, and their raid team is like, you fucked this mechanic up, and now no one has a buff. Like, yeah, it sucks, but just get better. Don't make the same mistake twice, right? The raids are easy. Yeah, we're getting multiple difficulty in Molten Core, but the lowest difficulty is going to be way easy enough to clear for anyone with 2 brain cells without a world buff. Like, I don't believe there's any scenario where the easiest difficulty of Molten Core is going to require anyone to have world buffs or consumables or anything.
Well, you say the raids are
maybe 10 people need to have half a brain, but the other 10 people don't. Like, that's the difficulty I'm expecting.
I'll agree with you on like some of the fights, but dude, like when I'm going at the last fight in Sunken Temple and one moron can literally spread blood to the entirety of the raid just because they were like, oh, I'm a classic person and I don't believe in deadly boss mods, so I don't use any add-ons. And she's like, well, you just spread blood to the entire fucking raid. We lost all of our world buffs, asshole. So great that you're playing in your fantasy fucking world, but can you please download DBM? Yeah. So that's where I'm at. Where like so, and what's crazy is you don't even need
to stop them out.
Well, you don't even need world buffs at all for that last boss. At all. It just makes it quicker and makes it less time for somebody to fuck up, right? But like, you don't need them at all, but you need them to parse, and everybody loves seeing their little numbers.
Yeah, but okay. I'll clap back with 2 things. If you have a person who refuses to download protection add-ons and then fucks up, you need to replace that person. They're not going to help you. You're not going to change them. You need to get rid of them and get someone else in. And the second part is, if you have people who play like that, you're not going to get a parse. Yeah. If you want to go from a 70 to an 80, that's fine. That. I'm not knocking you for trying to improve yourself, no matter which percentile you fall in. But I don't think you can use that as an argument or a crutch or an excuse if you're not doing 95s plus on the regular. Yeah.
Well, and 95 pluses oftentimes, especially for melee, depend solely on world buffs, proper group composition, and consumes. And then like also on top of that, I gotta pitch a bitch about hunters. Like my fucking melee hunter never gets all the buffs because I don't have because I'm not a ranged hunter. Like, come on, dude. Like, let me give 150 attack power to everybody. Turds. Sorry. Small rant there.
I feel like when it comes to like people want like the way that I've always seen it, like, yeah, you don't need world buffs to clear the stuff. Like, maybe it'll help if you're having trouble with something like we had in 2019 Classic. there was the guild that I was in. We weren't like super hardcore or anything like that, but the first couple of times we killed Saffron, we needed world buffs. Like we couldn't do it without world buffs. They were too powerful to not use to kill Saffron the first couple times. And then eventually once we got it,
same.
Yeah. So like, it helps at times, but you don't need them for any of the early stuff. Like Molten Core, no, you don't need world buffs to clear the stuff. But like you were saying, Bob, you do need them to parse. I think the problem is there's a lot of people who are like have deluded themselves into thinking that as long as they show up with everything and they have world buffs that they're going to parse, when it's just not going to happen for the majority of people. Like you actually have to be good at the game to do that.
Well, or just do what I do, research. Like I'm
Yeah,
not
there's
I don't
so many
press
other
buttons
things
as fast as I used to, but the reason for my success is research.
There's so many other things that have to be going the right way for you to parse, other than just having consumables and world buffs. Like you were talking about, Bob, with group comp. You have to have nobody in the raid can be a slacker. Like you can't be carrying dead weight. Like if you have any dead weight in the raid, you're probably not going to parse because the fight's going to last just that little bit longer, which is going to make your DPS be that much little bit lower because the fight lasted longer. So like it's all about being in the right group for what you're trying to do in the game. And there's people that just think that just because they show up with consumes and world buffs that they can parse in any group, when that's just not correct at all. They're like,
we'll have to see how hard these heroics are.
Yeah.
Like heroic Molten Core, if that heat level 3, if that's like crazy difficult, then we're gonna have to have the world buffs, right? It's gonna be a requirement, and you're gonna have no dead weight, and it's gonna be similar to a retail heroic if it's that. I hope it's that hard. That'd be so cool. Well, I want hard content.
Casters, I will say, in vanilla settings, parse better. Like you have a better chance of parsing in a weird group because like people stack melee, and like it was kind of the opposite in phase 2 with Nomer. Like you're gonna have much better like chance of parsing if you're in a predominantly caster group,
But the thing that was unfortunate is that if you're the melee who's getting good parses because you're in a stacked caster group and you're like the one melee or whatever, all of those casters are going to parse less good because the spot you're taking up could have been taken up by a caster who's doing more damage.
Yep. It's a bummer. But okay, so that brings me to like recently on the PTR, you're able to get world buffs, and one of them is Blessing of Stormwind. Is that right?
Yeah, I think
Might
so.
Might of Stormwind. So it looks like the Alliance are going to get the Rend buff because that's
it's
what
literally
it is.
just blue Rend buff.
But they could keep this in the game, and you could just do something where like you get a free Tuesday at reset. You log in and you have a free set of world buffs, and you could boot them. And then that's all you get for the week. You can re-get them if you want to, but that's all you get for the week.
The hunter bots selling DMF are going to be in shambles if they just give us world buffs. That's going to be brutal for them.
Yeah, I was kind of interested because I could actually do that run now because I'm gonna
or
be
the
playing
real hunters doing it.
I still don't like it. Like I don't like the welfare aspect of it. I think the reason that we have such fond memories of vanilla is because getting something done required effort for the most part, right? And if there's no friction, if there's no and this is a big problem with phase 3. There is nothing for you to do, to chase, to work on for a long time that will make you feel a sense of achievement once you're finished with it. Like every reputation is easy to get. You do a daily every day for a couple of weeks and you're exalted with AP or you're exalted with Warsong. Like the Emerald Warden stuff, like I did from neutral to exalted on my priest in 2 days, like 2 evenings. Like there is no sense of journey, of progression, of achievement if you get spoon-fed everything or everything handed to you on a silver platter. And this goes for buffs as well. If you don't want to go get them. If you don't have the time, then don't. And play with people who can't do it either and don't expect it of you. You will enjoy the game far more than if you're stressing about doing something you are unable to. But for everyone else and for every other aspect of it, with the reputations, with the PvP, etc., it keeps playability if you keep doing it as a journey, and once you're done, you feel a sense of achievement and you're proud of what you've done, right? So I don't like any type of welfare in this game, to be honest. And yeah, sorry for the rant again.
No. I mean,
but
that's
opinion, in my opinion. Like, not saying it's an objective fact.
Kind of goes with what I was saying about like making sure you're in the right group for what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's like kind of goes hand in hand with that.
Gotta find like-minded people that want to raid how you raid, like, because there's always going to be someone unhappy in a raid. But if you can try your best to find 19 other people that like to play how you like to play,
which is the actual hard part about raiding in vanilla.
Yeah.
Well, and
or make your own. Like, I need to play in a very, very certain way. Like, I don't enjoy farming items. Like, if that's what I'm doing, I'm not playing. I'm doing something else. Like, I have 2 kids. I own a company of which I'm the CEO. I have a lot of fucking work. So I can't expect to join a guild and that guild to change and play in a way that I need them to play. If I'm just anybody. Yeah. So what do? I have my own guild, right? And I structure it in a way that works for me. And I have, anywhere from 30 to 60 people who are fine with that. That works for them as well. And we have the same goals. We have the same expectations. We have the same things that we want to do. There's no disconnect where half the raid brings everything and half the raid brings nothing, right? So it's kind of like a harmonious situation. Of course, when people play together, when people work together, there are always disagreements. There's always something, right? But the issue I see so many times with people is that they want to play with good people and have clean runs and not waste time and not wipe, etc., etc. But they don't want to put in the work. They don't want to put in the effort. Like, I spent 250 gold on one consumable every week. And then I spend maybe 150, 200 gold on all the other consumables every week. I understand if you don't want to do that, but then you shouldn't be playing with me, right? You should be playing with someone who has the same expectation and aspiration as you do. Right?
See,
and this is where the disconnect comes in.
Well, and I think that's good. Like, that's in my raid. Literally, people in my raid will get mad at me because I recruit all the time. We'll get somebody really good in, and they'll run the raid with us. I'm like, okay, we'll invite you to Swamp, and then I let them know, hey, the super sweaty speed run is on Tuesday. My more casual runs on Wednesday. We've got this run that does this on this day. I was like, feel free to sign up for any raid. Everybody's like, dude, no, get them for us. And I'm like, yeah, but that might not be what they want. Like, that's the beauty of Swamp, is that there's a whole bunch of different raids you can get into that have different goals, right? And so I always just tell people, like, straight up right off the bat, I'm like, dude, I do expect people to get world buffs. Like, right, like, that might change in the future, I don't know, but like right now the 2 are pretty easy to get, and I expect you to get those. And I expect DMF on the week of, when it's in town, and the week after. And that's my expectations, and to come with minimal consumes, like resist potions, etc. But if I'm definitely going to roster the people. Like, I see it every time I do a ready check. I see the consumes everybody has on, and it definitely goes into my thought process on when I'm making the roster and who gets in and who doesn't. The people that come more prepared are always going to get in earlier. But there is also another caveat. The people that are willing to pivot and do whatever I need them to do, switch to heals, switch to tank, switch to, like, those type of people, I'm going to be okay with them underperforming more than other people because they're willing to do what the raid needs. And that is something that I've really grown to know is huge. And I'm not going to name names, but I have people that don't perform great, but they're willing to pivot in a second for me. And that is huge. Like, that makes my life as a raid leader And as a raid, like the biggest part of my job, because I have Kill Nine, who basically kind of like raid leads for the most part, and I kind of secondary, but like creating the raid is the hardest part that I do.
The logistics.
Yeah, it's just getting the proper comp set up and like all of that. So like I think it is good to tell people exactly what your goals are. That was kind of a rant by me. Sorry.
I feel like it should be like mandatory to do that. Like if you just randomly join a group and then, you know, like you can't be upset if the group isn't what you want it to be if you didn't lay out the, you know, the conversation, the communication that you need to be able to understand what you're getting into. Like it's required. Like you need to communicate. Like communication is the most important thing for getting into a raid group and making sure that you're going to have a good time.
Yep.
Because if you don't do that and then you don't have a good time, you have nobody to blame but yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's what people do with, in my opinion, that's what people do with the buffs. Right? They blame the buffs for the raids that they're in or for the players that they can play with, because they have a hard time getting the buffs. They don't have time to get them during the day or whatever. They got ganked or whatever, and then they blame the mechanic of the buffs on I can't play with the very best because I can't get buffs. Well, then try to play with someone who can't get buffs as well. Like, I don't feel like you can blame the buffs for your situation, right?
Yeah, it's the same problem I have with like mythic rating in retail and the fact that like the gear is so much better. Like it's kind of like world buffs there, you know, like they have the time, they're able to do that. Everybody makes, you know, the truth of the matter is most of the people can't do mythic rating. Like they, even if they tried their hardest, they couldn't do it. Right. That's the truth. But the thought of many people is, well, if I had the gear, I could do the same thing that they could do. And that's why I always don't like separate gears. Give everybody the same gear and then everybody has no excuse to make, you know, but the excuse here is world buffs, right? So.
Yeah, this is an argument I had with Josh a couple of weeks ago. He was saying he was such a good healer. And it's kind of funny that I'm breaking it up here. You can say a lot of things, and I completely agree with you that people throw this term around that like Classic is such an easy raid, and if they only cared, they could be the top dogs. They could get full 99s, or they could speedrun whatever, yada yada yada. Or so the same with retail, like they could clear full Mythic Plus if they only cared, right? But the common thread here is that they don't care enough to do it, and if you don't do it, you can't say that you could, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I can get full 99s on every class without having done it, right?
Yeah.
I had childish arguments.
I had a similar argument with the worst I ever acted on my podcast ever. I got in a fight with Winky about Winky was wanting harder content. And I was just trying to point out to him, well, you haven't invested any time in the harder content we've had over the past couple of years. How can you tell me you want harder content? But it came off like, dude, you can't do the harder content. It was horrible. But like, it was the same type of thought. But not to call out Josh. I shouldn't say this. Okay, hopefully Josh understands. This is just something I've noticed. But Josh has never finished a raid tier with any guild or any group. I don't believe he's ever raided from week 1 until the end of the phase. And like that's very different from like how I play, right? Like if I commit to a group, I stay till the end of a phase, and then I'll let them know a couple weeks before, prior if I'm gonna like duck out, right? But I think Josh has only ever raided for a month or two straight, maybe month or two. I don't even know if it's that much, but I'm not trying to call Josh out. Everybody, do not. Yeah. I love Josh. Love Countdown to Classic. Gladys every week now. I'm loving it. So don't try to turn that around. It's just something I've noticed. He's never actually completed a raid tier with any group.
Yeah, I don't know. But I think he's played a lot of the game, of course. But I think as a raider, less. I think we discussed this more. Like he is a good player, and I think if
he's a really good player. He's beat me in duels multiple times.
Yeah, I think he just he's an alcoholic, right? He levels one thing to max and then he's bored, and he needs.
And he doesn't. I think people piss him off. Like, I don't think he likes to hang out solo. Like, he's just recently, in the past year, branched out to really playing with other people a lot. You know, he likes playing by himself, or like with one other person or two other people, maybe.
Yeah, but the point of the dragging his name through the mud was just to, if you can't play the game in some way, I don't think you should be asking for more difficult content or easier or more welfare for you, etc. Like, go on the PTR and parse 99s and everything, and then go say that everyone should just have the same gear. And I don't think most of those people could do that.
Well, and to be fair to Josh, I don't think Josh has ever joined a guild that would allow him to 99 parse. And if we're talking about healing, like, healing parsing is a joke. We know that. But I don't think Josh has ever been part of a guild where he'd have a chance to do a 99 parts.
Perhaps. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I feel like every time I hear people say stuff like, oh man, if only I had the gear, or oh man, if only I had world buffs, or oh, if only I had the right comp, it hits me the same as somebody who's like, oh yeah, I could have gone pro if I didn't hurt my knee.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say, like, when you get that 97 parse and you're like, fuck, I was missing this one buff, dude. What would have happened if I just would have had that? Like, I can see. Because I've had that many times where I parse really high and I'm like, fuck, but I didn't have DMF. God damn it.
Yeah, but there, like, if you're a parser and you run into this, I have no sympathy for you. Because if you're serious about parsing, you have every buff always. It doesn't matter what buff it is, how hard it is to get, how many griefers there are on your server. If you're someone who's going for hundreds, if you're going for a 99.9 average, you have everything always, and it doesn't matter what's in front of you or holding you back.
See, and I don't have everything always, right? But I almost always do. Like, I've had DMF, like, I go get DMF from Goldshire, but at the same time, I understand how other people have problems doing it. I have 2 accounts where I can easily not bother anybody and just queue myself for a BG. One of the dudes is a rogue. Like, I mean, it's super easy for me to get the buff solo without bothering anybody, but like, it's a lot harder for other classes to do that. So that's why I don't expect what I do from everybody else, especially since I have so much time to play too. So that's why I don't expect it from everybody else. But I also came back to Classic saying I was never going to, I could go join sweaty parse shit. Like, I could go do that. Like, I could decide that I want to be in the swamp main group, and I could do that. I just don't want to do that. Like, I don't want those. Like, I like, just parsing low 90s. Like, and I'm good, and I'm good with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making a decision for yourself. This is what I want. This is what I'm prepared to put in. But my issue with all of this is that if you make this decision that you've made, and then you cry on forums for things to be changed and designs to be changed for you and the way that you want to play, that's where I really, really have an issue. Because you're kind of making it so that people that want to put in more effort than you do, who have more time or have better, situations, you're taking something away from them because you don't want to do it.
And see,
and I'm not accusing you as an individual of it, just like you people on the internet.
Definitely. And let me clarify, like, I always get all the buffs. Like, that's not my time problem for joining a really super sweaty guild. Mine is, I don't want to put in the work on PTR. And if you want to be in a guild where you're going to parse, fucking awesome. And like, parsing's easier early on, almost all the time.
Just week 1 clear.
Yeah, like, just getting that gear quicker. Like, that's the type of work you have to put in to have like the best numbers at all times. And that's the part that I don't want to do. But there's a lot of people even like that want to put in even less, they don't want to get the buffs, let alone they would never do PTR. You see what I'm saying? So like, that's why I don't join a super sweaty guild, is because I don't want to put in those extra man hours to progress.
I agree with you.
And so therefore I'm okay with it. Like I get 99s here and there, but I don't get them all the time. And
people
just
have unrealistic expectations about like what they're able to do with the amount of time that they want to put in the game. Like Arcos is saying, like in order for like, it's usually ends up being that the hardcore, the super sweat lord hardcore people end up getting something taken away from them in order to appease the group of people that's like, right under them or whatever. And we saw this literally the exact same thing happen for Cata launch, where they decided to make the raids not open for the first 2 weeks. And that basically the only thing that did at all was make it so that the race to world first was a leveling only race instead of a clearing the raids race. Because normally you level and then you clear the raid. Like that's part of what's fun for a fresh expansion for a lot of players, is the rush to level and to get as much gear from heroic dungeons as you possibly can and go into the raid with as soon as possible and try and clear it before anybody else. Like that rush and that race is really fun and entertaining to watch, but it's fun to play in, and it's cool, and it's something unique to the beginning of an expansion. But for them to say, okay, the raids aren't opening for 2 weeks, literally the only thing that was doing was taking away that race from the people that wanted to do it, in order for the group of people right under that to feel a little bit better about the fact that they can't put in the time to do that. And that's not fair to the people that wanted to put in the work.
Yeah, I agree. Like it does kind of suck, because it's such a small part of the player base who pushes that hard. It kind of baffles me why people think so many of these things affect them when they aren't in that top 0.1% of the player base. Like it doesn't affect you, and it's never going
creators.
to affect you.
It's content creators, how to parse 99 as a warlock in blah, blah, blah. Like, and they're telling you how to parse, and they're right. They're giving you good stuff. Problem is, you need to be in their guild.
Yeah, like, and then you watch the 15-minute guide.
Yeah,
you watch the 15-minute guide and you feel entitled, right? You've done the work, you watch the video, now you should get 99s, but oh fuck, your rate isn't on the same level, right?
Yeah,
and suddenly it's the design fault, not your own.
Like people just are not gonna get that, and it like it drives them nuts. They think they should be able to do that, but it's not in the cards, man.
Yeah, like I said, man, unrealistic expectations. People got to be honest with themselves about what their situation is, what they're capable of doing as a player, and also what their raid is capable of doing. Like, it doesn't matter if you're the best player of your class in the world. It doesn't matter if the rest of your raid is like mediocre. Like you're gonna look comparatively worse. You're gonna look like you're not as good as you actually are, because the rest of the group around you isn't allowing you to shine in the way that you can shine.
Yep.
But yeah, people, it's a two-pronged thing. Like people got to be honest with themselves and realistic about their capabilities, not just them, but also the group that they're in. And it's like, if you're in a group that can't, where like the average parse for the group is like a 65 or whatever, you're not going to get 99s. You might get one on like a couple of fights where there's something that you can maybe cheese or something like that. But like, you're not like you're hamstrung. Your individual performance is limited because of the group that you're in.
Yep.
So it's like, if you want to get those 99s, you have to be willing to put in the extra effort and time and whatever to be in the type of group where people are getting 99s consistently. And I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand.
Yeah, and most of the time that's not going to be while you have a beer in your hand and you're joking around in Discord. It's going to be a very different experience for you, and you're probably not going to enjoy it. Like, so just like look at your parses in your group and just try to improve week by week on your own. Don't look to those 99s unless you're looking to really push to get into the proper raid groups that will allow you to do that. And then when you do that, you're going to come under a lot of like people are going to call you out, when you do something wrong, and you might want that, but I'm just saying, that's what you got to do.
Higher pressure situation for sure.
Yeah, I've never used logs to like chase like all 99s. I'll have it up on my second monitor if I'm raiding, and I'm like, okay, what's my top number on the first boss in Sunken Temple? Oh, it's this number. Let's see if I can beat that this week. I'm not like,
yeah, that's a real way to go about it. Like try and improve yourself, like comparing yourself against yourself. And
I haven't looked at mine in a little bit.
You can compare like the way that I usually do things. Like you got to be like again realistic about what you're capable of doing. The spec that I've been running in phase 3 is not a parsing spec, so like I've been only looking at my own stuff, like how I've been doing against myself. But if I want to ever compare myself against another player, it's basically to find somebody who did a particular part of a fight better than I did, and then use logs to figure out how they did that so that I can use that to improve the way that I do it. That's like the extent of it. Like when it comes to comparing against other players, if you're in a situation where you're not chasing, top logs or whatever, that's what logs are really useful for. And that's why they're such a good tool, is that you can see all those specific things that happen in those fights and use that to help improve your own gameplay.
And like I was talking about my hunter prior, like my hunter's not going to top parse because I don't have a ranged hunter in my group. Like it's really silly, because if there was no way I would get into a raid group that wants to parse 99s as a melee hunter, because there is like, I would have to somehow talk people into of that, because I'm literally playing the wrong spec because I'm not giving true shot aura. So like the only way to switch there would be like for me to switch over to ranged, and which I'm probably going to have to do come phase 4 because they're killing melee hunter, but that's a whole different conversation. Yeah. But yeah, it's just
I'd like to piggyback on what you just said with the logs. Like as you said, people use logs way too much to compare themselves to the top players, and they don't consider the fact that the top players are 100% fully optimized in everything, and it means literally everything. So when I'm talking to like all my old friends who are coming back to the game, etc., and they're asking about logs, there are two ways you can consider it. You are either competing against yourself on logs, or you're competing against everyone in the world. If you're competing against everyone in the world, you're going to be disappointed for a very long time. You can improve, of course. Like I'm not going to tell you that you can't be better, but if you're comparing yourself to 100,000 people, 200, 300,000 people, you're most likely going to be disappointed. But if you compare yourself just against yourself, you can see gains every single week, right? And you can improve, and that's how you should use the tool. Like there are great videos on YouTube, like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, showing you how you can figure out what to do better next week, like to identify your mistakes. But again, I think a lot of people don't care about improving.
Well, that's why, like, even look at something like a real life example, like going to the gym. Like people keep track of their PRs. They don't only look at how much the strongest person in the world can lift. They keep track of their own PRs, and if they set a new PR, that's something to celebrate about. You don't get down on yourself just because you didn't lift the most in the world. Like that's ridiculous.
What an analogy! I like that.
Why would it be any different in the game?
Well, and then you also think about
if you aren't snatching like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you should just go home, right?
Yeah, just quit. Like
that's kind of the mindset, right?
Well, like the biggest way to improve how you're doing is to see what other people do, and Warcraft logs. Not gonna lie, that shit's confusing. It's taken me years now, and I'm just at a point to where I'm savvy. Like I'm not an expert, I'm, I'm savvy and I can look in there and I can figure out what I'm doing wrong based on looking at other people's stuff through a variety of different ways. And unfortunately, you can't get spec. Like, you need spec in fucking Warcraft logs. Like, I need to see your talents, like, fuckers.
It's very hard to identify the specs from the combat log.
Yeah,
you can identify like the capstone abilities.
Yeah.
Or if it's a buff that gets applied or removed during combat. But because you say that it's taken you a long time to figure out how to learn
how to navigate
what other people do,
what I need to be looking at, right?
I would just I won't go into like a half-hour tutorial now, but if someone listening is interested in improving themselves, you should like Google the compare function within logs. It allows you to compare yourself to anyone of the same spec within percentile parses. So you can look at someone who parsed the same as you and look at the difference, someone who parsed worse, someone who parsed better, and you can incrementally check within the percentile. So if you parse a 60, you can check what a 70 parse looks like and compare it like ability cast by cast to what you did. Yep. That's a fantastic function to see, like going from 60 to 65 and then to 70 to 75, etc. Comparing a little bit up every week.
Rather than
and it's just a built-in feature.
Yeah. Don't compare yourself to the 99% because they're going to be doing stuff different because their fight durations are different. Like if you want to move up, look like for a parse 10 levels. If you're a 65, look at the 75 parse and like compare that. Then like or as you like move
look
up,
at kill times, like stay in like a certain
that's a good call too.
Bracket of kill times is like a good one to do it too, because that gives an idea of like what the overall DPS of the entire raid is as well.
And you could just see your rotation easily through logs, but it's not easy to find your way there to the timeline, right? Like it's not super intuitive, but like if you just keep clicking shit, like you'll find, like that's how I've learned. And like people have showed me different things, but the YouTube videos of people giving tutorials on Warcraft logs don't get any views because nobody wants to do that type of work.
Nobody wants to improve. They just want to get spoon-fed loot like in Sunken Temple, and then they get bored because they got all the loot. They're full pissed, but they still parse like shit.
They just want to click a thing and see a number and feel good.
Well, they want a YouTube video that'll show them like their rotation, and then they just want to do that. And I get that. That's what I want too. But like, not every class has that like opportunity. Luckily, I'm, for Rogue and SoD, like I've got Simonize, but there's a ton of like classes that do not have a Simonize, right? Like,
it's an incredible handicap that Rogues have some guy with a weird hat play the game for them, but it works for a lot of people, But yeah, like people want to look at the 10-minute video from the streamer telling them what button to press, and then they're entitled to get their good parts, but they don't want to actually look at their own mistakes and admit their mistakes, admit that they're not a great player. And, with the going back, like we're going back and forth super fast, but like so many people got base in Sunken Temple, like really quick, right? Like maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, like you had most of your items, maybe one or two things you were missing.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff outside of
you're so confused.
It was piss. The people didn't think about
things from phase 2, a lot of things from like a couple of dungeons maybe. But so many people that I feel
Quest had good items too.
Yeah. But I feel like so many of the people who complain about world buffs, complain about things being tuned for the 1%, etc. Like they get their base, they don't get their 99s, and they don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, I'm a good player, but why don't I have 99s? I have full base. Like, what's going on? They, like we've said, they don't want to.
You're literally talking about like where I was in phase 2. I'm like, why am I not hitting this? And then I had to go look at the logs and like realize that like the rogues that were parsing were being catered to. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to get catered to unless I want to just be a dick to everybody who's been coming to my raids. So
Same thing for me for phase 3. It's like, well, I'm going to run leader of the pack for the group, so I'm just not going to parse this phase. And I accepted that, and I'm fine with it. and I've been having fun in phase 3 instead of like crying about it and complaining like, oh, it's not fair. I can't parse because I'm running leader of the pack. It's like, no, I know what the situation is. I know what I got myself into, and I'm okay with it. Like that's what I mean. Like people need overall, people just need to be realistic
expectations.
Yeah.
Yep.
On that Feral Druid thing, like the number one Feral Druid parse in phase 2 was Sun Tzu, who plays with Alondo. Like obviously, he had leader of the pack on. Number one parse in the world is a Feral Druid, leader of the pack. But it's the group he's with, it's the players he's with. Like they are the ones that carry the parse. He's a support, right? So he's playing the support, but he still out DPSs every other Feral Druid who doesn't have leader of the pack.
Yeah, because if a fight's short enough, it's like you're
exactly
when you start at 100 energy and then you're power shifting and all that stuff. Like the longer the fight goes on, the less of a DPS increase it is for each individual power shift, because it's all front loaded. Like at the beginning of the fight, you're dumping like basically 3 full energy bars in the first like 12 seconds of the fight or whatever.
On top of that, and trinkets and
then as your mana starts to deplete and like all this other stuff, like it just starts the bonus starts to kind of decrease a little bit. So the shorter the fight lasts, the better it is to power shift, regardless of whether or not you have like Führer, basically, or no, not regardless of whether or not you have the natural shapeshifter talent to make shapeshifting cheaper, because if the fight's short enough, it doesn't matter how much it costs to power shift. Like, but there's all this stuff that goes into like, you know, fight length, comp, like all these things that go into stuff, and it's like you have to take all that stuff into consideration and then think about whether or not it makes sense for you to worry about all that stuff because of the situation that you're in. And like I said, just be realistic with it. Take everything into account and be realistic about your expectations out of yourself and out of your group. And as long as you do that, you shouldn't be that upset with the outcome.
All right, well, guys, I gotta close this one out. Thank you guys for your comments. They led to like some really good conversation, but we do need to move on. Zunder, I know you said a Discord question, but I don't think anybody here has really invested any time in Cata PvP, so I don't know if that question works out for
I have
today.
I've done a little bit.
Okay.
Not arenas. I've done a lot of RBGs though.
I haven't done any rated
Not
stuff.
a lot, but I've done quite a bit.
Stuff.
Well, then here, let me go ahead and read it. Where's it at? All right. Have you tried any PvP in Cata yet? I've been really loving Arena and BGs. Been doing it on all 4 of my current 85s more than any other content. Also supplies some good pre-raid gear if you get unlucky in dungeons. I know you, Bob, didn't really like participating in PvP in Wrath, neither did I. But I did give Cata a shot. Additionally, I was listening to the last episode and how you couldn't find a thrown weapon in PvP. There's a good one for Conquest. I PvP'd a bunch in original Cata as a disciplined priest. I took over Mel's account. I fucking loved it. It was the last that I played. It was the last thing that I loved before I quit WoW completely, until coming back for 15 minutes in MOP, seeing the talent tree, and then quitting again. And then I came back in classic WoW. And yeah, I did enjoy it a ton. Unfortunately, with everything being released so close, I have to choose one or the other. I'm choosing SoD. I didn't raid last week because I was out of town in Cata, and Hammer Dance's 10-man kind of like half the raid wanted to go back to SoD to play on PTR, and so I'm kind of done with Cata now until Firelands is kind of how I'm looking at it, because out of town next week, and then most likely phase 4 launches. I got 2 tunes that I want to make sure are like top notch. So Yeah, I'm choosing, and unfortunately, I think that's what a lot of people are gonna have to do. And I think this is actually the point that we've gotten to. We're gonna talk about it later in the news, but yeah. So, but you guys PvP'd. So tell us about it.
I haven't done any rated stuff. Like Lubes is doing the rated stuff. I haven't done anything rated at all. I've just been messing around in BGs and stuff, just seeing how the new stuff plays, basically. And that's what's been fun about it for me, is like stuff that didn't used to be like strong in Battlegrounds is nuts in Cata Battlegrounds. Like literally any of the tanks are ridiculous in Cata Battlegrounds. All you need is like a healer, maybe 2 healers, depending on how dangerous the other team thinks that you are, to just follow you around, and you just bait them into hitting you, so you get vengeance, and then you just demolish everybody because you have a ton of attack power from vengeance. You just like grab an actual, like there's an actual reason for like to be a tank in Battlegrounds.
Blood DKs are crushing.
What is vengeance? Because it's funny because I just got done beating Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and playing Red X, who's a cat, has one of his main mechanics in how he fights is vengeance mode, and you work up to where you can turn into vengeance mode by getting like by blocking, and if you block perfect, it works up quicker, and then you go into vengeance mode where you basically just destroy everybody. So it's like funny that it's this
like tangentially similar. It's just taking damage, like while you're in a tank spec, taking damage gives you stacks of vengeance, and the more vengeance you have, the more attack power you get. Like vengeance gives you bonus attack power essentially, and like the majority of the damage that tanks do is based off of their vengeance, basically. So like that's why it's so rough as like an off tank in Cata raids. If you have the taunt, like it's really easy for the main tank to just immediately rip back off of you, because if you're the off tank, you haven't been getting hit, so you have no vengeance, so your threat isn't going to be as good. So it's like your threat and damage of tanks is highly tied in with vengeance. But in PvP, if you're getting hit a lot, you're getting a lot of vengeance, so you're doing a lot of damage as a tank in Battlegrounds. So like in like a Warsong Gulch or like a Battle for Gilneas or something like that, you know, you can guard a flag, you can guard mid in like or like the whatever the other capture the flag one is. That's, I don't know, is that even India? That might be MOP, I don't even know. But like, you know, Warsong Gulch, if you have the flag, you know, you give the flag to somebody who is actually tank spec'd, and then somebody who's trying to hit them to take the flag, all they're doing, if they have a healer on them, all they're doing is giving them more attack power.
Yeah, blood DKs have been my bane of all of PvP. I can't kill them.
I mean, even the bosses very good in can't PvP. Kill them. Yeah, they're literally like that was one of the biggest problems I saw with Cata, is that if you're not blooded, you're doing it wrong.
Real good. Boomkin's real good in PvP. I don't stream a lot of PvP. I just kind of do it when I'm bored and I'm just sitting around. RBGs, like the first week or two, was a lot of fun when no one had gear. But now that I'm like not PvP geared, I've been doing more raiding and leveling alts and stuff. I can't really do rated BGs anymore because I'm so far behind with resilience, because I'll just get crushed. But I've really enjoyed it, kind of because Boomkin's good, but kind of because that's just fun.
I really wish RBGs would be in SoD. I mean, dude, even Mel, we did PvP last night. I finally talked her into playing some PvP. She had a fucking blast because she was like, wow, it felt good. I wasn't dying constantly. Like I was able to do things. I did die, you know, but like it didn't feel like I didn't get to hit a button before I died. And like SoD PvP is still freaking awesome right now. I hope it's still awesome in phase 4, but phase 3 PvP, sorry guys, it's been freaking awesome. And after they made the changes and actually got like it stuck to like one set of changes, like with the 20% melee debuff, 30% ranged debuff, and the 20% healing debuff, like it's been good. it's been really good, and like it feels good, like it feels right. So I wish we had rated BGs there, right? Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We have gotten no news about AV. I don't even know if AV's releasing in phase 4. At least at the start. Like, we haven't tested it, nothing. I think they don't want to because they don't want people to get a cheaper mount and to just level in AAV, because that would be what I'd be doing.
It'll depend too. There's like a couple of reasons why people would go for AV Exalted. Like, some of the gear's okay, you know, like the ring, like Don Julio's is pretty good.
Oh yeah.
There's a dagger that's decent for rogues. There is an offhand that's good for healing.
The mount's basically half price of what like an epic mount is.
Right. So like a lot of people would get the AV rep just for the mount because it's cheaper, but some people were getting AV Exalted for like the gear and stuff. So like depending on what they want to do with gear, I don't know if they wouldn't necessarily have to like, you know, update anything from AV, because like some of the stuff from the AV rep is already pretty strong, like even compared to like some of the SoD stuff. Like Don Julio's band is like, it's good. Like, you know, like the Princess Ring was Prebis for a lot of melee and physical damage in original vanilla, and Don Julio's band is like a pretty good thing to pair with that for Prebis stuff, and it would last you for like a little bit in it as well. So like the fact that we have rings right now in phase 3 that are basically the same thing as Princess Ring, I feel like it's Don Julio's band could still be good at 60 and might actually still have a place in people's gear sets and whatever. But depending on what they want to do, because they've been updating a lot of gear, which obviously we're about to talk about, they've been updating a lot of different stuff, adding new things in, etc. So I wonder if AV is one of the things that they're going to look at adding new stuff, because they've done that with Warsong and with AV as well. So it would make sense for them to do stuff to the AV gear.
Well, I'm guessing that's going to be something that they bring in later and are not going to bring in here at the start of phase 4. But let's move on to these voicemails. So the voicemails kind of seemed a little jokey this week, but they did ask questions. So we're gonna go ahead and play them.
Hello? Hi. Is this thing on? Bob, Mel, it's Hamster here. First time caller, long time listener. I have a question. What's your favorite pizza topping? Okay, bye.
So first off, this guy, the way he talked, reminds me of The Fifth Element. Give me your money, cash. It reminded me of that guy. But yeah, so what's everybody's favorite pizza topping? Mine, if I'm going with bis, I'm going with sausage, pepperoni, black olive, and mushroom, but only if the mushrooms are fresh. If they're canned mushrooms, hell no, just leave the mushrooms off.
There's canned mushrooms? Ugh.
Yeah, they're. I
didn't even know that they canned those. I guess it makes sense. They can chicken, so why wouldn't they can mushrooms?
Some pizza places use them, and it's so gross. But yeah, what's everybody's favorite topping?
I am pepperoni. That's it. Just pepperoni.
Straight pepperoni. All right. Basic bitch over here. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, no, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you probably like Coors Light too. You know, it's okay.
Damn, catching strays.
Table.
I mean, I'm not that picky, to be honest. Like, I like pizza. I like a lot of different toppings. It depends on what I'm in the mood for, really. But, you know, you can't go wrong with a good sausage, onion, pepper.
Okay. I like that. Arcos.
I prefer like a white pizza, so no marinara sauce, with mozzarella and
like with Alfredo as the base instead of marinara.
No, just with mozzarella, oil, and pesto.
Okay, so just like a cheese pizza.
Those are so good, though.
Yeah,
I mean, I like that too.
It's not like heavy cheese. I used to live in Italy, so that's where I get that from. It's
where you ate
lighter pizza.
Real pizza instead of American pizza.
Sounds pretty good though.
It does. Okay, well, thank you for.
It's quite good.
You can't go wrong with good margarita as well. The fresh mozz, basil, tomato.
I like a good Supreme too. Being honest, like a good Supreme. Get all the different onions in there and the peppers. Yeah, we can do it. All right, next one. Now, this guy is either making a voice up or he's extremely constipated. If you're extremely constipated, I'm sorry, bro. It sounds like it hurts.
Hello, Warcraft Reloaded. I wanted to call in your favorite president. I have a question. I was watching Josh Corbett just the other night talk to his community, and the hunters were very happy, very, very happy about getting their buff heart of the line put baseline. And right after we hear the druids, they're crying, they're upset about wild strikes not being the same way. Now, Warcraft Reloaded, what do you think? Do you think the wild strike should be baseline? If so, I think it's kind of a slippery slope. Where does it end? What else is baseline? What is SoD? But just most things that maybe should be baseline. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll see you. Farewell. Farewell. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.
All right. So
was that supposed to be a Donald Trump impersonation?
I think it was. I heard him at the beginning said something about your something favorite president, and I was like, oh boy. And then the cadence of his speech,
well, you didn't do a very good job of the Donald.
That was like charbroiled Trump.
Yeah, there was like constipated Trump, or maybe like THC. I don't know.
Gargling marbles Trump.
Yeah, well, so I argue that the feral version of Wild Strikes is already too strong because it's automatic.
Well,
when they go into cat. Yeah, well, that, and it's just automatic, whereas a shaman has to choose it as one of their...
Yeah, they have to drop a totem for
their totems, and they have to drop it. Like, they have to drop it in the right place. I feel like if it became baseline for druids, it would need to be one of those annoying buffs that last 30 seconds to a minute, like... although I think that they're changing the way warriors work, so warrior buffs are going to be like much, much longer and stuff. But I feel
honest, I haven't seen anybody complaining about wild strikes needing to be baseline. Like, what would we run instead? There's nothing else to put on the chest slot.
Unless they put something else in, like, I mean, wait, is it the stun on the chest?
The stun? No, it's the Fury of the Storm Rage is one of them. The Living Seed for the healing one. Survival of the Fittest, the tank one, the one that makes you crit immune and gives you like a bunch of damage reduction while you're in bear form. And Wild Strikes. That's it. Those are the 4 chest runes.
And Wild Strikes only comes active when you're in bear or cat form, correct?
Right, exactly.
So if you made a baseline, it wouldn't even help to, you have a resto druid that can still give Wild Strikes. This isn't what you want, but you could throw them in there to give your second melee group like a Wild Strike.
I guess you could run Survival of the Fittest on the chest, and if Wild Strikes was baseline, you could run Survival of the Fittest, and then if you're a tank, then you have the tankiness and also you still have Wild Strikes. But I mean, that's the trade-off, right?
Yeah.
But I think that kind of fucks bear tanks on alliance. Because if you're in a guild and the only tank player that you have available to you only wants to play bear, he either needs to not have Windfury himself, or he needs to have another cat in his group.
Yeah,
so he takes
alliance
the
is a
DPS
different
slot, right?
Story, right?
And, yeah, and it's kind of annoying because a lot of, or maybe not a lot of, but some of the content creators that I've heard, some of whom have been on this show recently, they kind of shout that it's so easy to make a comp for Alliance. when we can only get wintry from the shittiest DPS spec almost in the game in the Feral Cat. While Horde, like, you can stack 5 shamans, all of them do double the DPS of a Feral Cat, and all of them can provide wintry. Like, you can have a Resto Shaman provide wintry, you can have an Elemental Shaman provide wintry. They won't want to, but they can. A Resto Druid, a Bear Druid, or a Balance Druid, they really, really don't want to give you wintry, and 2 of them can't. So you're pigeonholed into a shitty Feral Cat who does no DPS, and you need 3 of them if you run 3 melee groups.
Well, I mean, optimistically looking, like Feral looks pretty freaking good in Phase 4 from PTR looks. So
yes,
that's a good thing, at least for that.
Yeah, but it's yeah, and if they are that strong on live compared to other melee classes, I think you're not really bringing them for the wintry anymore. You're just bringing them for the DPS, and the wintry is a bonus. But it's been quite rough, especially this phase with how strong DPS the enhanced does. Seeing Horde guilds who were competing for the same things that I compete for, they just slap 5 enhancement summons into their raid comp and call it a day. Do like 5k more raid DPS or something compared to our groups.
I think it's weird because I'm fine stacking as many whatever shaman can come. I'm fine stacking them. Like, whereas I don't think Alliance has a class that is like, oh yeah, well, warrior, I guess right now, if you have warriors that actually know how to play, warriors are just doing absurd DPS in a group with all the buffs, of course.
Yeah, but like, I don't know how to explain this. Like, not all warriors are doing a lot of DPS.
No.
There's
Most of them are doing
of warriors.
Yeah,
most of them are doing average.
Yeah, most warriors don't know how to play warrior and are not going to spend the 100 hours it takes to actually understand the nuance of everything. Yeah, the difference. Yeah. Like, I'm in Bobka's raid Sundays, and those warriors, I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, we did the first boss. I had 1.5k DPS on the first boss as a melee hunter. They had 2.3 and 2.2k, the 2 warriors in the group. Like, it was just like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, but this is also kind of nuanced, right? Because of how the warrior kit works now. And you are talking about one boss that a lot of people kill within 30 seconds. So you have 100%, like, you pre-pop Death Wish before pull, and you have it up the entire fight, right?
Yep, and then we all
lip. It's a very difficult one to compare.
Yeah, we all lip so that we don't even move. Like, so...
you shouldn't need that if you kill it faster than 30 seconds, because his cast rarely goes off before 29.8 seconds or so.
Yeah,
so he's not going to do the throw.
He basically does it at 10%, basically. So
yeah. I mean, but you bypass it by using a consumable. Yeah, but like, how do we go with this? The difference between a 80% parsing warrior and a 99 parsing warrior is as much DPS as a feral cat does. Like, for the entire raid. Like, a DPS cat just falls into that window of an 80 parsing warrior and a 99 parsing one. Like, if you, like, I've done raids, I'm Alliance, I've done raids with 6 warriors in it, with 3 cats, and the DPS increase for the raid from having 2 extra warriors is kind of not worth the 3rd feral druid, because he does so little damage, because his kit is just shit, and that's the design of the class in this phase. So we are kind of pigeonholed into bringing 3 players who might be very, very good at their class, but their class is just tuned so low in this phase that you kind of question yourself, like, why even bother?
That's why I saw this problem weeks ago, and I've mentioned it, but actually a couple of months ago, and I've mentioned it to so many people on the show, and everybody tells me I'm a fucking idiot. I'm just like, you could fix this problem easy as pie. 1 of a class per group, or else you take a DPS loss. Like, you take a raid wide DPS loss. Like, if you have a 20 player group, a 20-player raid, if you have any more than 4 warriors, like if you have a 5, your raid gets an entire 5% debuff across the entire raid, healing and what's it called? If you have 6, boom, 10%. Like, I love this idea, but so many people, no one's agreed with me on the show. Definitely people have written in and left comments that they think it's great, but everybody's like, oh, nope, I don't like it.
I feel like that's not that weird of like a goal, but like to force people to do that without actually fixing the problem that requires that to be the solution.
But it would
like,
give them so much more time to fix the problem.
Maybe, but would they
like you wouldn't be like working up warriors to like get a jump on it while they're trying to fix things. Like
I feel like if the way that the class balance was made it not make sense to bring more than 4 warriors, I feel like that would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, that would be the best. I just don't think that could happen, is where I'm at. That's why I was like, why don't we just do this? Boom.
Yeah, like it's difficult to balance so that you don't overstack something, but you kind of also need to take into account that if you made this change, you are dictating, or Blizzard is dictating what people play.
Yeah,
we couldn't have,
which they already are if you're trying to do things right.
Well, then
not really. Like the players have decided
because you make a decision to push, you make a decision to do degenerate things that require certain classes and specs. That's a you decision, not a Blizzard one.
Yeah, so.
But if you consider the spread of the player base across the classes, they are not even. So if you make a rule, hard-coded or not, where you need a certain quota of every class, you're going to mess with things that are very difficult to mess with, because the players spread across the classes in very random ways, right?
Yeah, I do have a
You're
question.
Not going to have 10% of every class.
Right. Going back to like the actual hunter change of basically kings, which is lion, being baseline. I'm wondering if that changes the fact that like the huge thing about taking kings was just the straight up like double dip. Like it's not a like if like everybody else gets kings, right? Like everybody else gets lion, but the hunter gets double. You get 20%. You get double lion. And I'm thinking that double lion is going bye-bye because of this change, because that was the whole point. That was the whole trade-off was that like, oh, well, I'm getting kings times 2. And that's what we've been getting for the entirety of the time. Like when we
to
run
make up
kings,
for the loss of not running a different rune.
Yeah, when we run kings, like we literally have double kings. And everybody else has just kings. But the hunter himself has double kings. So
yeah, I think it would make sense if it's baseline and nobody needs to actively run the lion rune or whatever. If it's just going to be baseline,
yeah, we're going to lose that.
Sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Go away.
Yeah, I haven't seen it on PTR, but I'm pretty sure we're losing that. Which was probably a little broken prior, because I mean I was PvPing last night in phase 3 in SoD on my hunter, and yeah, I had 7,500 with fort. I had 7,500 health. So
I don't know. Either way, I still have a hard time trying to say that like Wild Strike should be baseline. I think it's too strong to be baseline. Like the way that the buff is, the fact that it scales really is the main reason why. Like it's 20%, an extra 20% attack power with the extra strike. That's scaling, whereas like Wind Fury, unless they decide that they want to add new ranks of Wind Fury totem, then Wild Strikes is going to be stronger than Wind Fury anyway. So it's like at that point, like if the person in your group that'll be providing that extra strike buff will be a Feral Druid once you get to a certain gear level, because the amount of attack power you have is going to make that extra 20% more than what you would get from the extra attack power on your Wind Fury hit. Well, so it's like it's already strong enough. Like I don't think it needs to be baseline. I think it's already strong enough. And also from what we've been seeing of performance on the PTR, Ferals are doing fine. Like they don't need an extra thing. You know what I mean? Like Ferals aren't supposed to tell. Like I'm a Feral Druid. we shouldn't be topping the meters. Feral should not be topping meters. Our kit is too expansive. We have too much utility. It doesn't like it was fun to be topping meters in Wrath, but arguably shouldn't have been happening. Yeah. Like for a class that has as much as utility as druids are, I think it makes sense for them to not be, top 5 would be awesome, cool, but I don't think we don't need to be top DPS or anything like that. Like we don't need, I think it's fine. Like all that being said, I think it's fine that Wild Strikes is not baseline. I think it's fine.
Well, and I would pose the question to you, like, would you prefer it to be baseline and like only a 30-second duration? So every 30 seconds you had to re-up it. And you're going to tell me, no, you'd rather just have it on the rune because there's no other rune unless you're a tank bear that really would matter. So yeah, that's basically, I don't see it as the same thing because in Kings, like you could just get rid of your pet instead of having Kings and have 30% more damage.
I think they're different enough buffs. Like the Lion versus Wild Strikes, they are different enough from each other that it doesn't make sense to like see Lion going baseline and be like, oh well, what about Wild Strikes? Like, yeah, well, fucking what about it? It's not the same thing. Like they're so different. It doesn't even make sense to bring Wild Strikes up when you see Lion going baseline. Like why?
What if the Feral tank rune gave Wild Strikes, but Wild Strikes, the actual like rune, gave like a little something cap related, whether it's like a little attack speed or a little attack power, just because Alliance gets put into bind when your only Feral Druid is a bear.
I think it would make sense for like if you're bringing, because Feral tanks are gonna be actually good at AoE threat in phase 4 because of the improved swipe rune, and the improved swipe rune. At first, it was only just going to double the targets, so it would hit 6 targets, but now it's getting increased to 10 targets. It's either 10 total or 10 additional, which would make it 10 total or 13 total. But so like, and they increase the damage and the threat modifier of swipe. So like bears will actually have good AoE threat in phase 4. So it might actually make sense to bring a legitimate bear to raids. They're also some of the tankiest because of the rune, because of survival of the fittest. So it's like bears could like, mark my words, when Nax comes around, every single hateful tank is going to be a bear. Every hateful, you'll have like, I don't know who will be the main tank, but all of the hateful tanks will be bears for sure.
Or like, rogue,
I guess, but like, I mean, bears already take a shit ton less damage and they have high avoidance at 60. Like with the it's just, I think that bears is okay. If anything, I think it would make sense for maybe survival of the fittest to give the bear their own like extra attack, but not a group buff. You know what I mean? That way, like, because there's already like the extra attack is big for threat. But you could put the tank in like the tree druids group or something like that. You know what I mean? Because like tree form increases the amount of healing received by people in the group. So like it makes sense to want a tank to be in the tree druids group so that they get the extra healing. So if the feral druid, the feral tank is not the Wind Fury provider for one of the melee groups, then it doesn't matter what group they're in. So just put them in the tree group so that they take more healing. You know what I mean? Like we're thinking about this from like the group comp standpoint, where like a feral druid is there to buff a group, but if a bear druid exists, they're not buffing a group if they have survival of the fittest. So survival of the fittest gives them their own Wind Fury for just them and not the rest of the group. Then it doesn't matter what group they're in.
Yeah,
I like that take.
And then they still get the extra threat from having Wild Strikes without having to mess with any of the comp stuff.
All right. Well, these were really good conversations. I need to move us on, though. We're gonna have to go through the news kind of fast. So here we go. Time for the news. Sorry, I just went ahead and skipped what we've been doing lately because we've had some great conversation, and I think it'd be better just to cover the news than do that. All right, first up in the news, we have the Midsummer Fire Festival event has started. That started in Cata and started in SoD. probably a lot more to do in Cata with it, but SoD still has things to do. There's still buffs. There's still the like the different buffs you can get, like the 30% stamina you can get before raids and stuff. So there's still some stuff there, but I think the majority of like extra content is probably in Cata.
Unfortunately, those don't count as world buffs for the purposes of booning.
Yeah, I know.
But they are nice. I think that the big one, the one that's I would say is arguably the most important of all of those different buffs is the XP buff that you can get from dancing at the whatever that thing is called, the little pole thing.
It's a good time to catch up in SoD leveling wise if you
good time to level alt in Cata too.
It's great. I've leveled my warrior from 1, but the last like 3 days having that buff is so nice.
In SoD or in Cata?
Cata.
Yeah, dude, with the normal Joyous Journeys plus Midsummer XP buff plus full heirlooms with all the XP in there, you can literally go from 1 to 85 or at least 1 to 80 in like, I don't know, a few days.
It's great.
Of casual play.
Yeah.
Even just questing. Not even spamming RDF, just questing. You can quest to almost max level in like 3 days.
Yep. There's all kinds of like inside. There's fun little things you can get. You can get the little girl that dances or whatever. I don't know. Can you get that?
The sprite thing or whatever.
Was that TBC?
No, I don't think you can get that. You can get buff food.
I think that was in TBC. You're right. Yeah, because the torch tossing and all that stuff didn't come in until TBC, right?
Yeah.
The foods are good though.
Yeah,
you should get the foods.
Are good. They're easy.
And it's just the low level quests.
I'm assuming in SoD you can still go, or was that just TBC and on too, where you could go talk to the different people and just make a good amount of gold? Just talking. I think
that was in TBC.
Yeah, TBC and okay, so
or Wrath on
yeah, not much for SoD there, but it's okay.
I know I can't remember exactly the summer ones. There was because I know like the for the food buffs because I know the Halloween or the Hallows Eve ones they had like the stacking ones where like you would eat 3 or 4 of them or whatever to get the maximum amount that you could do. And I know that the summer ones aren't that.
Ones. Yeah.
But I can't remember which specific because the one thing that I do know is that they stack with well-fed. That's the thing that I know is that you can have a well-fed buff and also the seasonal event buff food at the same time.
Yep. All right, and then next in the news, Incursion Events won't be the same in Phase 4. I thought Incursions sucked, but at the same time, I would have totally done Incursions to work up my 2 characters really fast if they were still the same going into Phase 4.
Is this just the news that you're turning it into a daily hub instead of a repeatable?
Yeah, it's now they're going to be dailies instead of repeatable, but probably still worthwhile. I remember doing a full run of them before we realized we were supposed to just do the few collection ones.
The little loop.
Yeah. But like I remember doing it and it was almost a full level of experience. So if you go to like all 3 like higher level hubs initially, you might get 2 to 3 levels right off the bat. So
yeah, I'll be doing those on Phase 4 launch for sure.
Yeah, but this is probably a good thing, especially since we could be like pre-bisque gearing in dungeons instead of doing the incursions, because the incursions had all kinds of problems. Like you're a melee and you work up and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I don't have any melee skills at all. And I'm level 50 and my melee skills are all level 40 because I didn't kill anything leveling up. So
it was like the same issue with getting boosted in Vanilla Classic, where you had no weapon skills leveled, you didn't have defense leveled, you didn't have any of that shit leveled because you just stood there and got experience.
Yep,
it's the same type of thing.
But this is probably good.
I think it makes more sense for them to. I don't know. It feels kind of almost weird because like those first couple of days of incursions, people made so much gold and got characters leveled so fast.
It was so awesome.
It's nuts. Like I mean, I was a little late to the party on it, but like I still got a lot of XP out of it.
I'm lucky. I was part of the first. I saw it pre-nerf.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I was getting like 30-something gold a quest.
You went in there and kept coming into our like Discord and be like, Bob, you guys have to go do the incursions.
You gotta get on this, bro.
Get out of ZF right now.
That was like part of the reason why I started doing them. I was like, oh shit. But like the thing that I'm kind of worried about is like I think they're interesting from a lore perspective, but I don't know, not everybody cares about the lore stuff. The thing that excited me the most about incursions was not the amount of XP, was not the amount of gold. It was the fact that we got to literally go into the Emerald Nightmare. We literally went inside the Emerald Dream, which is something that I like my, 14-year-old me. If a 14-year-old me found out that I'd be able to go into the Emerald Dream, I'd be like, what the fuck, dude? No way. So like that was the coolest part to me. So like the lore aspect of the fact that we're going into the nightmare to help make it not the nightmare anymore a little bit, like dispel some of the shit so that it becomes the dream again instead of the nightmare, is fucking sick. So I think it's from a lore perspective, it makes sense that it's only a daily hub now, but like I guess I'm just worried that people aren't going to give a shit about it anymore because they remember what it was like at the beginning of phase 3 with incursions being totally cracked. And now that they're just a daily hub, people will be like, I don't feel like going all the way to fucking Ashenvale to do dailies. Like, nah, I'll just fucking, nah.
Yeah.
I'm just worried it'll fall off. Like, nobody will do it anymore. Nobody will care. And like, there obviously there's Ashenvale and there's also the Hinterlands and Feralus as well. But like, I don't know. Like, I'll check it out, I guess. But like, I don't know. Unless they change the way that the quests work too, to go and do like to get all of them and then go do one round of it. It's so fast. It's like you could make the case for like, yeah, it's so fast, so go do it because it's like it's easy. But also, it's like I don't know. It doesn't feel substantive at all. Like it just.
I see it like the STV event to where like when phase 2 we had the STV event. It was awesome. I enjoyed it. It was new. And then phase 3 was like the same STV event. Just new rewards. I ran it to get my rewards and then I didn't touch it again. Like I did the incursions. I know what they are. I won't touch them.
I'm gonna every time I get a helm upgrade, I'm gonna have to go there to one of the vendors anyway to get my fucking Wolf's Head trophy. But like that's probably it. And catnip. I'm gonna get catnip. But like that's kind of about it. Like that's probably all I'll end up doing. And that's as somebody who does give a shit about the lore and was excited about the fact that we went into the nightmare. I'm probably not going to do the shit either. Like once I already have the rep I need for the stuff that I need to get from the vendor. So like, I mean, unless they add some shit at Exalted, there's no incentive for me at all to do any of them.
That's another consumable we're talking about that makes it even rougher for people. Catnip. Arcos, what do you think?
About incursions?
Yeah.
No, I don't really care. Did them on launch, leveled. Well, I leveled a priest, a hunter, a druid, 2 warriors in incursions because it was optimal. Like you don't need to use your brain. Don't really. Like, it's not enjoyable.
Netflix.
Yeah, talk shit with the boys. Like it is what it is. I think the idea was good. I think they didn't nail the execution. I'm not really excited for daily quests, especially if the rewards are BIS. Then I'm not really excited for daily quests because if you miss a day, you feel behind. And that's kind of the beauty about the grind of most things, that you have a free weekend, you knock it out. Like no life for 16 hours a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever, if that's what you need, or you do 2-3 hours every day, if that's more your jam. But with daily quests, when you have a day where you miss out, you are behind and you are forever behind. You can never make up the time lost.
Yeah.
And that's what I dislike about dailies. So
I much prefer.
Hope the rewards aren't too big.
I much prefer weeklies or dailies like Kata does it, where you can do all your dailies in one day and then be done for the week. But like much more prefer weeklies. I like weeklies a lot. Gives you 7 days to get on and do whatever, and like I really like that. Like it doesn't force you to do too much, because even dailies allowing you to do all 7 in one day for the week is still like a lot, you know.
Yeah,
so
I think that's a good compromise. Like if you don't have time during the week, you can do your weeklies during the weekend or vice versa. But if you have this like crunch at work and you can't play for 3 days, you're not 3 days behind literally everyone else, right?
Yep.
I feel like it's a pretty fair compromise. Like it'd be pretty hard pressed to find anybody who thinks that's bad. Unless, I mean, like
you can always find someone.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, you probably could. Yeah, like it's one of those things where it's like you don't have to take. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. You don't have to take something away from somebody else to make you feel good about what you have. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So like to be against the, you can do it all at once and not be behind if you miss a day or whatever. Like I feel like it's just seems weird to me to be against something like that, because like for me it doesn't change anything about the way that I'm going to play. If I want to only do one every day, then there we go. But like if I, like you're saying, you miss a day, you have to miss a couple days, you just make it up by doing it a different day. Like I don't, for somebody to want like, oh, you can't dump as much time into the game as I can, then you deserve to be behind. Like that's so weird.
There's a lot of people that feel like that, though. There's a lot of people. But okay, so the next part is Xbox went to Gamescom. Microsoft, showed off a whole bunch of cool shit, but one of the things was the release date for the War Within, August 21st, and we're probably looking at a release date of for SoD Phase 4, we're probably looking at a release date of probably the 11th of July.
Hey, it's my birthday.
Well, I mean, it'll be the 11th of July, I think, or the week after. And then you have the War Within coming out. And, unlike previous versions of Classic, I think there was a lot of retail players that were playing SoD. Like, we're really spreading out the player base, because at this point, with like everything you have to do, you're choosing Cata, SoD, or War Within. And that is pretty, like, it'd be one thing if there were all 3 of them spaced out by 3 months, but you're just choosing between those now, and that is
even doing 2 of them is rough.
Yeah, like, and if I can't do Cata and SoD, dads definitely can't. Like, dads with a job definitely can't. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it feels bad to have to choose between 2 things that you want to do both of them like a similar amount and have to choose between them. That definitely feels bad.
Yeah, and
or 3 things.
It feels bad for me when I could play, and yeah, maybe I'm traveling a lot. Maybe it'd be different if I wasn't traveling the majority of this month. But it just, if I can't do both, and I really enjoyed Cata raiding, but I'm basically done now until at least after SoD launch. So it just feels bad with it all coming out at once. And it's gonna, like, where certain things, SoD, Cata, or War Within could have strived and could have like really popped off. I think you're really pigeonholing your chances, because I kind of really want to play War Within. I'm not gonna lie, like, I want to try it. I don't think I'll like it, but I want to try it. Like, the man himself is back doing the story again, like, and like, I want to try it, but I'm not gonna. There's no way I'm gonna, because I'm gonna be heavy into SoD right then. So I don't know. How do you guys
I know
feel?
I'm gonna give the War Within a try. I'll give it a try. I'll get a character max level. I'll try out the raid. Obviously play a boomkin, but see how that feels, and then if I like it, then I'll keep playing. But I'm a classic player. I enjoy classic better, and I have people that I play with on classic, so I'll give it a try. But Who knows?
It just seems it's all coming so fast. That's how I
did
feel.
say the same thing about Cata, that I'd give it a try. I'd get a character max level. And here I am about to have an alt max level 2. Already doing VGs. And maybe I like retail. Who knows?
I don't know. Anybody have
some
any
of this
thoughts?
Some of the stuff they have coming up in SoD is like pretty appealing. Like the whole, I don't know if you had a separate section of the show where you wanted to talk about it, but this like BlackRock eruption thing.
Oh, yep. Hold it.
Yeah.
All right.
There's one thing about the War Within. They're making changes to the camera. It's super small. I saw a tweet about it and I saw a blue post about it, to where if you pan your camera and you run into a tree, you won't like clip into the tree. You'll just like continue being like the zoom angle that you are. It's so minor and so like inconsequential to anything, but I love it so much. It's hard to explain.
I don't know. I have major problems with. I like to zoom way out, and tree areas
it won't
really
clip
mess with me
into that. Like if you run into a building, the camera distance will like shrink down to the building. But if you like run into a tree or like a lamppost,
the camera won't freak out and zoom in.
It won't freak out and zoom in. I'm excited for that.
All right. Well, I just basically wanted to talk about them just releasing things way faster. Like way too fast, in my opinion.
Is it the speed, or is it the proximity of it to the other things?
Yeah, like how close it is to like, I mean, Cata launches, then, you know, a month later, SoD Phase 4, then a month later, War Within. Like, I'm just like, yeah, okay.
I don't know. Maybe they might have underestimated how many players are playing multiple versions.
Yeah, but I think players are going to have to choose which one they're going to want to do, and that's going to have major anxiety and FOMO for a lot of people.
And I think it's going to make numbers like game wide and all the versions look worse.
Yeah,
because
on each
you don't have like
overall
I won't have
should be
3
better,
characters. Though. I think so too, but like I won't have like right now I'm not rating on 3 SoD characters. I have 3 SoD characters. I'm rating on maybe 1 a week.
Yeah, you were rating on 3, and then Cata came out, and then you transferred to 1 and rating on 2. You know, in Cata.
Yeah.
And
so we'll see what the numbers look like after everything. Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, okay.
I think God forbid you want to play another game entirely. Like I still haven't finished my playthrough of Baldur's Gate. Like, come on.
Yeah.
There's too much stuff to play.
Dude, Baldur's Gate is so good. I want a World of Warcraft Baldur's Gate, and I want a World of Warcraft Skyrim. Please give me this. I've been asking for it for years. Also, give me a Super Smash Brothers version of Blizzard. Bada bing, bada boom. I just gave you a bunch of ideas for awesome games.
I want Mortal Kombat Pokemon, dude.
Mortal Kombat. All right, so the next thing is Tier 5, or Tier 0 and Tier 0.5 dungeon sets have been revamped. I don't really want to talk about the revamps. Like, they've revamped, like, basically the 4-set bonus on all of the sets, like, actually point to your specific class and your specific spec. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about, is this inconsequential? Like, if Molten Core comes out right at the start of Phase 4, like, I never did these dungeon sets in Classic, and I helped my Feral Druid buddy do them in original vanilla back in 2005. And the only reason I helped him do it is because he couldn't get into a raid as a Feral Druid because everyone said they were trash back in the day. So, they were a pain in the ass, though. Is anybody going to do these?
Yep.
Like,
yeah, I think you need to consider the stat bonuses, because you might not want to have full 8/8 of your tier 1. You might want to go 6 out of 8 and then 2 out of 8 in 0.5. You might want to go 4 and 4. I think it's going to be different for most classes.
The theorized set bonuses and the Datamined set bonuses are making the 0.5 like super worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
If those stay, I know those numbers are going to change. Things are going to change with the data mines.
Some of the stuff is definitely not correct too. Like some of the stats on the actual pieces of gear are not correct.
Mm-hmm.
But like obviously it's a work in progress. But like the bonuses, the bonuses are good. And then this kind of ties in with the thing that I said like at the very beginning about the thing that I noticed about some of these new tier 1 sets. So like
these are the tier 0 and tier 0.5, not the tier 1 sets.
But this ties in with like wanting to mix and match the different sets and whatever. The original tier 1 sets, they have a tier they have a 3-piece, a 5-piece, and an 8-piece set bonus. 3, 5, and 8. The new ones are 2, 4, 6. There's no 8-piece bonus for the new ones. So like the new feral set, the highest you can go is a 6-piece. It's a 2-piece, a 4-piece, or a 6-piece. Whereas like the original druid set is 3, 5, 8.
Okay.
So, and then you look at the tier 0.5 for like feral specifically. Let's say the 4, like going past the 4-piece doesn't make any sense. Only 4 of the pieces are epic anyway, so it's like whatever. But the 4-piece has like a chance. It's basically like the tier 4 2-piece essentially, where like you have a chance to get an energy proc in cat form. And then when you're in bear form, you have a chance to get extra rage when you get hit or whatever. The cat bonus is definitely the better is definitely the better one. Like the tier for like a feral tank druid, you would want to run tier 1. For a feral DPS druid, you would basically not care about tier 1 and just run the tier 0.5 4-piece and then whatever else.
So it is a way to like give extra 5-person like 5-player group 5-player content. So yeah. Okay, all right, okay, cool. All right,
it's cool. Definitely people are for sure, and that's just feral DPS druid. Like of all of the other ones that got revamped, like some of these bonuses are legit. So people are for sure going to be like I can see people wearing some of this stuff into like until they replace it in like AQ even. Some of them are that good.
That's kind of cool then. All right.
I mean that's how it was in Vanilla Classic too. Like the Rogue 0.5 was disgusting.
But it was just the Rogue if you wanted to do daggers, like basically.
Yeah. But it was disgusting. Like the 4-piece for the Rogue 0.5 was crazy and lasted until max.
All right. So, okay. The next thing is the Blackrock Eruption World Event revealed. So this is interesting. It's gonna occur every 2 hours. And it's gonna be a thing where is it Searing Gorge and Burning Steps or just Burning Steps?
It's gonna start out with only Searing Gorge and then eventually it'll also be Burning Steps.
Okay. So you actually get no PvP honor gains at all for killing anybody during the event in Searing Gorge or later on Burning Steps, I'm assuming. And then you get like double inside Blackrock Mountain.
Yeah. So as long as you're like, you know, like how when you're going up to Blackrock Mountain, you go up on that ramp on the south side, or you just get up to the doorway in the north side. And you're as long as the name of the subzone that you're in and your minimap changes to Blackrock Mountain, that becomes active. So you're going to see a lot of people fighting on the ramp or fighting in the doorway, basically at those choke points.
Oh man, imagine like a group of like 10 of you guys in the middle platform inside of Blackrock Mountain, like holding down the fort from all the chains and stuff.
Do you think
that sounds awesome?
I don't know, man. Like I would have to see how it plays out, but Stranglethorn Vale, like, you know, they did this and it's just a pain in the ass with setting your raid time specific to Stranglethorn, especially when like Horde had to like warp there from Booty Bay. Like that was a pain in the ass. Like I just feel like these types of things would be better off used in places that were not like already hot spots. Yeah,
we're gonna have to go to Blackrock Mountain for other things.
Yeah, like that's already a hotspot. So I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like it's a little like, I don't know.
That's the thing is like when you look at like take any PvP server, the PvP that happens inside Blackrock Mountain isn't for honor at all. It's to inconvenience the other faction. So like even doing something like removing honor from kills inside the mountain when the event is not active won't do anything because people do it anyway just to fuck with the other faction.
Well, and
that's the real reason. Like,
yeah,
you have everybody res at the same time and all sapper at the same time to wipe a whole raid and clear their world buffs or whatever from 2019 Classic. People weren't doing that to get honor; they were doing that to fuck over the other raid team. Like,
yeah, and I don't think like the PvP servers, you're still gonna have just a ton of PvP in the Searing Gorge and Burning Steppes areas, even though there's zero honor to like get. I mean, shit. I'm doing
to inconvenience the other faction.
I'm doing BGs and I'm getting nothing for them. So like, people are just gonna do it to do it.
If you look at the blue post, the big thing is that you're going to be able to get more Hydraxian and Thorium Brotherhood rep from doing the dailies and the event.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the big reasons is depending on what they add to the, like there's some stuff in Datamined that they're adding to like Hydraxian for rep rewards, stuff like that. I don't know about Thorium Brotherhood, but I know the Thorium Brotherhood was something that you had to level anyway for different blacksmithing specializations and getting like your fire resist plate and stuff like that. So like that was already important. That was already something that people were probably going to do, but just to have a little bit of an easier time of getting it maxed instead of having to turn in a fucking billion stacks of dust, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like it could be interesting.
Yeah.
But it's Blackrock Mountain's going to be fucking toxic on PvP servers.
It's going to be so toxic.
It already was going to be, but it's going to be even worse now.
Arcos, you have anything to add to that?
I just echo what you say. Like there are zones in this world that have nothing going on for them. They could have spiced things up, places where we don't really go.
Yep.
I really enjoy the organic PvP that the community creates in Blackrock Mountain and both Burning Steppes and Searing Gorge. It's gonna kind of be weird for that organic PvP to happen in between events, and then you kind of fuck off during the event. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I just hope they fix the server lag on this. Like, this is going to be fucking atrocious with the server lag that we had in early STV.
Well, I mean, yeah, that was bad, but just the one thing we can give them. Incursions kind of sucked ass, but boy, there wasn't any lag. So if they can do it the same way they did that, then we're looking pretty good. There was huge fights, tons of people, and I didn't see any lag. It was probably because we were instanced, right? But like, I don't know. We'll just have to see. But yeah, we're quickly running out of time, so I want to go on to the next thing. So the next thing I have is class changes. If people wanted to specifically talk about something for their group, I'll give Table and Lubes a little time to look over the most recent changes, see if they want to talk about anything. But I already
mentioned one of them.
Well, I want to skip forward real quick to the warrior change for Arcos here. Warriors getting a dumbed down world buff. I don't know if this shit's going to work at BGs and shit too, but I guess you don't want to go into a BG without one of these, at least one or two warriors. Because basically...
Valor of Azeroth that you're talking about?
Yeah, they're basically giving it's not going to stack with the Ani buff, but if the Ani buff isn't active on anybody, it's going to go to them, and they're going to have like a budget world buff, and warriors are going to have this at all times. So
It's basically going to be 90 AP and 5% crit.
Yeah, and I don't like the cooldown's 1 minute, like to cast the buff. Like it's not like this is just a new buff warriors have everywhere too. So I don't know how I feel about this, but I've played a ton of warrior, but like I kind of dropped off. Like I played all of 2019 Classic Warrior, but Arcos, how do you feel about this?
I think it's an interesting change, and I'm not sure in which direction they are going to take this, because I look at this from two perspectives. Like there's the raid perspective and then everything else perspective. This is nice for raid, and they say in the original blue post that warriors so shit to play without world buff, so we just give them one. And while that is true, this is like a welfare world buff for all the unfortunate or bad players in your group that died. It's probably going to make you feel a little bit less shit that you died and lost your buffs as a warrior. But it kind of remains to be seen how it feels in the raid. But for everything else, I think it's bigger and more impactful. Because I know anyone who's played solo warrior in the world knows that it can be quite rough, killing a couple of mobs that are higher level than you. If you're unfortunate and you accidentally pull 3, 4, 5 mobs, you can get into trouble. This is going to help you a little bit in your solo play out in the world, in your farming, It's going to be big in BGs, but again, we don't know I don't think we know the cooldown and the duration. I haven't logged into the PTR since this was announced, so I haven't checked. But yeah, I think the impact is going to be felt more by warrior players outside of the raid. But it also gives warriors maybe a little bit of, I'm going to help my guy out in the raid who, fell in the hole or whatever, stood in the fire. So you get a little bit of, I'm helping the raid too. I'm not just leeching the resources of everyone else.
Yeah, I didn't even think about BGs with warriors having that buff.
Mm-hmm.
That's so much bigger than yeah.
So
that's
huge.
a legitimate thing.
You need to also
if you don't
consider
have a warrior,
that most
you're gonna be pissed off.
No, but you need to consider if you have a warrior in BGs, 99.9% of the time they're going to charge into 10 people and die within 2 globals, and then the buff is gone, right? So we don't know the cooldown. We don't know if it lasts through death or whatever, right? So it remains to be seen how effective it is.
There's 2 other warrior things that I want to point out on this list. Like obviously Valor Azeroth, interesting, cool. Like we'll see what happens. Thunderclap hits 10 targets now. That's fucking sick.
They did that for all of the tanks. All of the tanks that have like AoE now. They were like, all right.
That looks like it's just baseline though.
Yeah,
like Thunderclap just straight up hits 10. Like the bear one, like Swipe can hit 10 targets now too. But you need the rune, the improved Swipe rune, for that to happen. And improved Swipe is going to make it hit 10 targets instead of just 3.
Oh, good point. Good point.
And also, Shield Slam gains 15% of attack power as additional damage. That one's a confusing one because I don't know if so. Like I mained a warrior tank in 2019 Classic, and I was Fury Prot because it didn't matter that I wasn't defense capped. Nothing hit hard enough for it to matter that I was getting crit every once in a while. So like I actually did have a decent amount of attack power when I was tanking, but now they're trying to make warriors wear a shield and do all this others like.
Oh, have you heard about the other change?
No, maybe.
So there's a change to all the tanks using certain runes or sometimes baseline, depending on you get attack power for defense.
Oh, okay, all right.
So then you get attack power gains. Like now defense gives defense, but also I think warriors 4 times. It's like 4 attack power per defense point.
All right, that makes more sense then. Never mind. The thing I was going to express concern about the fact that like, oh, well, warrior tanks aren't going to have a lot of attack power because of blah blah blah, but because of that, I wasn't aware of that. I haven't been keeping up, I guess, as well as I thought I did.
Yeah, they're doing it for rogues too and stuff. Like I don't think rogues get as much attack power per defense point though. I'm not sure.
But either way, T-Clap hitting 10 targets is pretty good.
Yeah, Shieldstorm, the threat it does is tied to the damage it does. So the more damage it does, the more threat it does as well. I don't remember exactly what the modifier is.
For Shield Slam or T-Clap?
Shield Slam. But Thunderclap hitting 10 targets, I'm not certain how impactful it's going to be. Because
it'd be better for AoE tanking.
Isn't great anyway.
It'll be good for AoE tanking, not better. Well, it's not going to be like, if I'm looking at it, if I was going to be tanking, I wouldn't care about the damage I'd be doing. I'd be caring about getting up the debuff on all the stuff that's hitting me.
Yeah, but then you kind of get more into the nuance of strategy, right? Because in my opinion, at least, when I'm making strategies for tanking things, I'm usually not accounting for the tank to phase tank 10 plus mobs. If you're doing pulls with 10, 20, 30 mobs, most of the time I'm going to ask the tank, like, try your motherfucking best to not phase tank all of these, because if they all melee hit you within one global, you're probably just dead.
Yeah, right? And you never know which one of them have thrash.
That's a really good point to point out to other tanks that think because we've had a lot of new tanks in SoD, and a lot of tanks think that tanking all the time means you're standing there tanking. Tanking a lot of the times means using like 100 to drop frost traps, and you're kiting. So you're taking some of the damage from some of the mobs, but you're getting away from the other mobs too. You're still maintaining threat, but you're not taking the hit from every single thing. A lot of new tanks don't understand that tanking a lot of times is kiting.
You don't even always have to have threat the whole time. Like, a lot of people think that the tank's job is to have aggro on everything and to get hit by stuff. Like, no, it's to keep everybody else from getting hit. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't have aggro as long as nobody else is getting hit. Like, if you can stun something, slow something, whatever, and just keep it from hitting somebody else, that's your job. It's not to get hit by everything. It's not to have everything focused on you. It's to keep everybody else from getting hit.
Yeah, people think that the tank is supposed to be soaking everything, when in reality they should try to avoid soaking everything.
Yeah, it's less about you taking all the damage and more about everyone else not taking the damage.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I think this, it's going to improve the use of Thunderclap for sure. Like, making it hit more targets, you're gonna have a bit of an easier time. But I'm not sure how much threat it's still going to do, because its threat isn't so great.
But it doesn't do more damage. Whereas Fan of Knives, you'll be able to put, if you're doing a rogue tanking is looking pretty freaking cool with all the different poison options you have. Like, Fan of Knives can shoot all of those poisons out, everything all at once while doing good damage. I don't know.
Yeah. But I really want to throw in one thing with the tanking here, because I play Alliance, right? Doing these big pulls, or doing 10 plus mobs at least on Horde is so much easier when you can just get alpha and you do 40% more threat. So I think Warrior tank, even in AoE, is going to be more on the table for Horde rather than Alliance, because even if everyone else is doing 10% less threat, you're not doing 40% more threat.
Yeah, there's
just be aware, Warrior tank players.
Yeah, it's good. It's going to be interesting.
More than anything else, it's important that it's really important that people get on the PTR and mess around with the stuff and provide feedback, so that the version that we get when Phase 4 launches is as good as it can be. Instead of just what most people do is they read these patch notes and they're like, oh, okay, and then they don't do anything, and then the phase drops and then they complain. It's like, well, you could have done something about the thing you were unhappy about, because you knew you were unhappy a month in advance, but instead you just decided to sit there and do nothing. So if you
they're giving us a PTR for the first time in all of SoD, we might as well use it and figure out
take advantage of it. So that's the message to any player of any class. Look at the patch notes. If there's something that you like or don't like, go on the PTR, try it out, give feedback, and then oh, hello.
Sorry, we have a random. We're recording the next podcast, our Chiefs one here shortly. So, Jason, say hi.
Surprise guest.
What's up, party people?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. So, dude, there's so much changing. There's so much changing, but we literally have. Is there anything else anybody wants to get out? Because I want to get one less. We're gonna have to skip the new 3-set bonus for mag. We're gonna have
Fresh Classic era is so much fun. I'm playing it on DV delay right now.
Oh, the community
maybe
fresh
level 10. It is great. It's
community fresh, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. That's all I gotta say. And Boomkin looks really good for Phase 4.
Well, but what was there anything you want to talk about the changes to classes? Because like it looks like they're really trying to like help out Shammies to have a 2-hander option. You know, but I just don't know enough about Shammies to know if this is enough. You know, to
Boomkin
change.
Starfall is very powerful right now. I think it's gonna change. Dots can crit. Feels
That's
very good.
Huge. Yeah.
I don't know. Not much has changed about the actual rotation of Boomkin, which kind of sucks. I think it'd be enjoyable to like have some sort of
the dots critting thing is huge. Though.
That is huge, but it's the same rotation, same everything as it was last phase.
Yeah, it's
and the phase
basically
before.
just free extra damage.
Yeah,
because some of those ticks are going to crit. And also, it's interesting that Insect Swarm is on the list because I don't know if they did anything, but the last I knew, Insect Swarm didn't have a spell power modifier.
No, Insect Swarm stinks.
Yeah, Insect Swarm is
something's
literally
change,
for the hit debuff on the target. Like
we'll have to see what changes, if anything does.
But yeah, to go with what Bobby's talking about, the shaman thing, the 2-handed shaman thing, I still like these buffs are huge. They're powerful. Like Maelstrom has a higher chance of proc when you have a 2-hander equipped. Cool. That means more lava bursts are going to be going out. The attack speed bonus granted by 2 in a weapon spec after landing a melee attack on an enemy with a 2-hander has been increased to 50%. So that means it's a 50% attack speed bonus, which is good also. But like, I don't know if like for this to be good, lava burst will have to do so much more damage than lava lash for 2-handers that it actually makes sense, or it would have to do enough damage to break even with lava lash. Lava lash is so good, and being able to spend your Maelstrom procs on like chain lightnings and whatever and is good. It's really good. But as 2-handed, you instead of running lava lash, you run lava burst, and you're spending your Maelstrom procs on lava burst instead of chain lightning. And then if you get another 5 stacks before lava burst is back off cooldown, then you use it on a chain lightning. But it's like they have to do some tuning to make this actually break even. Like these are good. This is a good step, but I just based on this alone, I'm not convinced that 2-handed is going to like be able to compete with dual wield.
I wonder if 2-handed will be able to compete in PvP, because like I will argue as a melee hunter that running because of the way the runes work, running 2-handers in BGs is way better than you losing trap launcher to run run dual wield. Like, yeah, you'll do more damage dual wielding, but you're going to do close to the same amount of damage with a 2-hander, but also have trap launchers. So if you're fighting 2 people, you freeze the other target. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so much better than...
I feel like PvP is always interesting because, like, look, the classes that were really, really, really good in PvE or PvP in like phase 1 and phase 2 were not that good in PvP. And that kind of seems to be like the tradition in this game is if you suck at PvE, you're probably really good in PvP.
Well, and that's fine. I mean, you never saw a warrior. I mean, you did see some 2-handed warriors on Horde side using the weird one spec, what's the stupid cast time move?
The slam spec?
Slam, yeah. You would see them doing the slam spec. If they had Wind Fury, they could make it work. But
Wind Fury, BRE, and slam spec was all right. But like two-handed fury wasn't bad either. Like regular two-handed fury wasn't too bad for orcs.
Yeah, it was just, but like they were like that was the only thing to play in PvP, and I don't mind that. Like if they can make two-handed like better in PvP, but not viable in PvE, I'm fine with that. Like
for what? For shamans or for warriors?
For shamans, for any class. Like
I honestly like I've played dual wield and two-hand on the shaman at this point now. Like I played mostly two-handed before, but I did some dual wield stuff. And I think that two-hand is more fun. I feel like I personally think it's more fun to swing a big weapon slowly than it is to swing two smaller weapons quickly. I think maybe that's also because of the fact that I dual wielded on a rogue and on a warrior previously. So like I've already done a lot of dual wielding.
Yeah.
Is like playing the shaman was really the first time that I'd done a lot of stuff with a two-hander. So maybe that's why I was having more fun with the two-hander. But like, dude, those lava burst crits are fucking nuts, bro. Like you get your maelstrom procs, you get your instant lava burst, or even if you only have 4 stacks, it's a super fast cast time. If something's like running away or whatever, as long as you have a flame shock up, it's a guaranteed crit, dude. a regular like a storm strike critting and then proccing Wind Fury and that crits, and then a lava burst landing and critting is fucking crazy. That's so much burst. It's so much fun. But I mean, it just would suck if it just was trash. Like I would settle for like decent, but maybe not as good as dual wield. But like, you know, kind of nipping at the heels a little bit. I'd be okay with that, but it would be really sad if it was complete trash.
All right, well, guys, we are almost out of time. I want to do one last thing.
Bobby, we need to have a talk about this World of Warcraft Classic. Do I look like I know what a WoW token is?
All right, so we're missing like a lot of stuff. There's a new 3-piece bonus that has 2 weapons and a neck, and like you can maybe transform or call something in, like, but we're not gonna be able to cover that. We're missing the new possible goblin related content that could be coming, and we're also missing like there's some new Hydraxian warlord trinket like Datamined that increases fire resistance for anybody in a certain area when you proc it. Like, and I wanted to talk about that in the case that like back in the day, I want to talk about this one real quick and just like if you have anything real quick. Back in the day in original, everybody had fire resistance gear. Like we had, like that's the reason I was able to tank Ani phase 2 to the end as a rogue. It was one of my coolest things I ever did in original vanilla. The tank dropped. I was able to tank because pretty much I think all the damage is fire damage, and I had 240 something fire resist, and so I was able to tank it. But like in 2019 Classic, we didn't see any real need to have actual fire resist. We didn't have any real need to have resists until AQ, and it was like a little niche. And then
make a case for like Fire Maw, in BWL maybe Rag.
And then like and then in AQ, like we definitely had some poison resist stuff that actually helped, and we had frost resist in Nax. But in original vanilla, the top end guilds, everybody had a fire resist set, but we didn't really need that in 2019 Classic. I think with items like this Duke's Domain, I think we're finding out that for the higher heat levels, you're going to need fire resists. And I just want to just real quickly, do you guys think that's true, or do you think like they're just putting this in for no reason?
I'd hope so.
It could be. I feel like like I mentioned Fire Moth specifically. Like think about like on that fight, you kind of dip in and out and you like let your stacks drop, and then you can dip out and then do more DPS. When you get a certain amount of stacks, you dip in. An item like this could help it. Like you pop this. The way that it reads to me is it seems almost like a Death Knight's anti-magic zone from Wrath and Kata, where it's like or like a power barrier sort of situation, but like instead of a full absorb or full negation of magic stuff, it's just if you're in the zone you get the extra fire resist. So you could pop this on a fight like that to help people get a few more casts out before they have to like reset their stacks or whatever. Or you run on top of the tank, like so that the tank doesn't have to run this trinket themselves, because there's probably going to be better tank trinkets to run than this. Somebody else could run on top of the tank, drop this zone on top of the tank, so the tank still gets the benefit without having to actually use the trinket themselves. Like little stuff like this might help out. Ani air phase, if oh shit, I'm not going to be able to get out of the way of her breath in time, you pop this real quick, at least maybe you don't get one shot by the breath. Like I don't know, like there's niche uses for it for sure, but I don't know, like
and
we
if
could
it's
see
if it's
some
stacks,
strategies revolving around it.
Yeah, if it stacks, maybe you have your healers running it, and on Firemaw, your range DPS could go up to like 10 stacks rather than 5 before resetting. Like
it makes me think, I wonder if these heat levels are just like if you need a certain amount of fire resistance to like live certain mechanics, to like if you were wearing resist gear, you weren't wearing the most optimal DPS gear, the most optimal tank gear, the most optimal healer gear. So like it's like they make the difficulty harder, and they make it forced to where you can't bring the most perfect gear to the raid, kind of double dipping in difficulty.
Yeah, I never thought of it being like literal heat. I always thought of it as like heats of like a race, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something is interesting. I just clicked the trinket, Duke's Domain. The actual effect, it says 4% of base mana. So I don't know if that's real. Like, I don't know if using this trinket is going to cost mana, but like, I don't know. It's interesting. Like, not really relevant, but still, that's funny.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Interesting. All right. Well, yeah. Okay. So I wanted to just talk about that real quick, because like that is something interesting. Like, that might be something they're trying to bring back, is the whole resist gear. But the last thing I want to talk about, and I feel like this is really important, there's recolored tier 1 sets and a lot of different colors, right? Do you think this is possibly what you're going to get from the higher level? Do you think this is just like recolored based on class? Or do you think it could be recolored based on not class, spec? Because there's different ones for each spec. Or do you think this could just be what you get for killing it on the higher level? Instead of like better gear, you're getting different colored gear to show off the fact that you beat it on higher tiers.
I'm pretty sure it's based on spec.
You think so?
Because on the PTR, like when you load in their level 60 druid, like what do they call it? The little cookie cutter, make a druid. You get a full tier set of balance, resto, and feral. I don't know if there's a feral tank one. I just delete everything that's not my boomy. But they were different colors in the PTR.
They were? Okay, that's a bummer. Yeah. I was so hoping, because like I really think they're going down the wrong road if they're like making these different difficulty levels like higher ranked gear. And I know people say, well, people won't do them if they don't, but people do. People will. Like, they fucking speed ran for no fucking reason at all. So people will do this for bragging rights, and bragging rights. What's better than bragging rights? Bragging as you walk through town, like with like the gear. So I mean,
I'd do it for a tabard.
Tabard, any like literally the people in Classic 2019 did speed runs for absolutely nothing in game. They literally got nothing. So anybody that tells me people won't do it, yeah, your regular people won't do it, and that's fine. Like, let the fucking sweaties do it, but they're going to do it regardless. Give them a little something to show off. That was what I was hoping it was, but now I'm feeling like it's just like the different spec colors, which I don't think makes any sense.
Honestly, I'm hoping the heat things is not anything related to difficulty at all. I hope it's just an indication of how serious of a group you want.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean?
I mean, like, if you sign up, if you're like looking for a low heat group, then you're matched with other people who are also looking for low heat, and it's like a little more
LFR.
Oh, you think it's an LFR thing?
I'm joking around.
No, I don't know. Like, it depends on what I don't think they're planning on adding in like any sort of like matchmaking thing, but like that's what I immediately thought. Is like, oh, maybe it's like you queue for it or whatever. But I don't know. There's no evidence or indication at all that they're adding any sort of queuing at all. But that was just what I immediately thought about. But that's fucking catabrain.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you guys put this in and there's better gear for the higher tiers, and on top of that, the world buffs, like, dude, I think you're going down the wrong road, and you have not been paying attention. Like, that's like, I love the devs, but if you're putting in better gear for the higher rank stuff, you have not been paying attention. But what is everybody else think? Arcos, you've been quiet.
Sorry, about the recolors?
Well, no, just about like I'm thinking the recolors could be for showing off like the higher tier kills in like the higher difficulties, but if it's actual better gear, well, like I'm just talking like, should we have better gear for the higher level encounters? And I think that's a no for me, but
yeah,
that's just my
opinion. Think if we get better gear, then there's a lot of pressure to do the more difficult content. And I think we kind of saw in both TPC and more so in Wrath that a lot of people think they want harder content, but they don't actually. I think a lot of people quit, especially Wrath, because they had difficulty with some like Algalon or Zero Lights or some heroic ICC boss. So I think they need to be very careful with the tuning, and if there is no reason gear-wise to do significantly more difficult content, then I think participation in that difficulty will be way down. There is definitely an argument to say that people used to speedrun for no reward. Those were, bragging rights, and people will keep doing that. But that portion of the player base is very small. If you consider the total number of guilds around or groups or just players, very, very small percentage of that plays for a bragging rights reward. So personally, I don't like that we have different difficulties, and I don't like if we have differently statted gear. Like if you have the same item, but it was gained on heat 1, then it's better than on heat 3. I personally don't like it, but I also question that design, like making variable difficulty with no reward is questionable from the design point of view.
See, the way I see it is like, if nobody does it, cool. Okay. And if somebody does, cool.
People are gonna do it.
Yeah. Either
we'll
like
see how far they take it.
Yeah. Either way, if you just make the rewards the same, nobody's butthurt. Like, just make the rewards the same, and if you want to do it, you do it. Like, and if you don't, you don't. Like, I just beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I'm going through now and beating it on hard mode, but I got to see everything. Like, all I'm really doing now is pushing myself to a harder level to feel that achievement. But I got the whole game story. I got the whole thing. I didn't feel underpowered. Like, everything was great. Like, I feel like this is what they should do for Classic. It was the biggest mistake they ever made in WoW history, was to make the gear better for the harder content. It was dumb, and it's still to this day dumb.
I just question the design philosophy and why you would put so many, or I assume so many hours into designing a harder difficulty if you don't care whether people play it or not.
Okay, well, if there's, I get that if we're talking like hard modes, like in Wrath, like those had different mechanics. Like, and I get you want everybody to see those, but I'm talking like if they're making these, like most likely they're just upping armor, upping resistances, upping like you know, boss health, like, and upping boss damage. And like, I feel like that's the type of work you should put into that, and then you should just stop.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. I think it probably works. My concern is if they are designing the harder difficulties with world buffs in mind, which they very well could be doing.
But shouldn't they at that point? Like,
I'm not sure. Like there are like levels to it, right? If you design it with world buffs completely in mind, and someone wipes, they're just going back to the previous difficulty, right? Because you can't keep progressing a difficulty designed for world buffs once you've lost them. That might be the idea. It might be the idea that Heat 1 is something we don't see fully cleared until week 6, right? Because whoever's going for it, they're going to wipe, and once they wipe, they just have to call it for that week and go full clear on a lower difficulty. That could very well be the design philosophy they're going with, and that's fine. But I think this might be a little bit dumb or something. But if you're making the design so difficult because people are asking for more difficulty, you also have to consider this with the rewards, right? If the people doing that difficulty need to invest significantly more, like let's say your consume cost for Heat 1 is 500 gold per raid, but you don't reward them for that with anything except bragging rights, I'm not sure how much participation we will have.
Be one of those things where people do it once just to say they did it and then not do it again ever.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where the territory you get into. And like for me, I enjoy speedrunning. That's the reason I play this game. I enjoy the competitive environment of going fast. And I want a lot of people to be doing it. I want the barrier to entry to be low so that more people enjoy it.
I see what you're getting at with the speedrunning thing now. You're saying that if the harder difficulty is in, then that's going to be the speedrun bar. And you think that people will just not do that at that point. Okay. I do get that. That's
kind of one of the routes that they can be going down. But like, it could also be that like Heat 1 is just so difficult that no one's going to speedrun it because you're always going to wipe. Like there isn't a scenario that you don't wipe until week 13 or something. I don't know. Like, they could go down that.
That's definitely like a very interesting thing that like
I thought about that.
One of those things that you've known for a while, but like sometimes you need to remind yourself about how like so far in Classic, the way that players have made things more difficult has been to just go fast. Like In Vanilla Classic, it wasn't the content was easy as hell. So the way to have higher skill expression was to do it fast. Same thing with TBC. Same thing with Wrath for the most part, even though they heroic modes and stuff. But still, speed running has been a thing the whole time, and that's been the main skill expression in Classic is going fast, not doing harder stuff.
Well, let me jump in with you though. That's why speed running died in Wrath ICC.
No, it died in Ulduar. Post this one.
Yeah. But they died because the hardest level. Okay, I do get what you're saying now. I do get it.
Yeah. So what we kind of saw through the history of Classic is that most players, like the vast majority of players in August, September 2019, they had not been exposed to speedrunning in this game ever. The only people who had were, some private server players, and that's a very, very small subsection of the player base. But then, around when COVID hit, a little bit into Blocking Lair, we see the participation of speedrunning just skyrocket. Like there are so many guilds in Classic that are pushing pace. They're not trying to be the world's fastest. They're just pushing themselves to be a little bit better every week and, be proud of that improvement. The participation increases and increases until Nux, but then we just see a fall off over the entire game, right? We don't see any speedrunning phase 1 TPC because there's just one boss raid on Karasan. Nobody really cares. SSC TK pre-nerf is RNG heavy and only 5, maybe 10 guilds really pushed speed.
It was pretty awesome though. That was the best. That was the best race to world first ever, with them using the rocket boots and hitting the pipes. Yeah. And oh my god, it was good.
It was very cool, very nice to watch. Then BT and Sunwell Plateau, we see a little bit more participation because it's less gated content and less RNG heavy as TK. Like there's not really many mind control mechanics that just wipe you, right? But it explodes again in Naxxrama's phase 1 Wrath because the raid is so easy. 15 monkeys and 5 blind people could clear Naxxrama's in an hour, right?
It's literally the biggest Classic WoW has ever been. It was during Nax, and we saw 623,000 people raiding. It's the biggest Classic WoW has ever been across the entirety of it. I'm looking at the stats right now.
Yeah, I mean, a big portion of that is, of course, alts because it's so easy to level. But I think we had a very sizable amount of people raiding because the barrier to entry is extremely low. The difficulty level is extremely low. And we see, again, an uptick in participation on speedruns. And it's not until the last few weeks, maybe the last one or 2 months, where it dips again. Because it's a kind of a funny situation. A couple of the top guilds figure out that you can run through trash on your way to Instructor Rasulius. One person can pull the boss, kite him backwards towards the entrance, and the entire raid runs to Gothic and resets the boss. And you can start inside the Gothic room. So you save a lot of time there. But this is a barrier to entry. This is like going PTR, for 4 hours preparing for a raid, right? Not a lot of people are interested in this, but it saves incredibly a lot of time, right?
Yeah, so you can't basically kill Vesuvius while you're waiting for waves on Gothic.
Yeah, exactly. So there you increase the barrier to entry because this isn't something that a lot of people are interested in attempting. It requires a lot of prep work. It requires a lot of people to do things very correctly. So participation goes down. We go to Ulduar, you have hard modes, participation goes down. You go to ICC, there is no speedrunning. You go, TOGC, there is no speedrunning. You go to ICC, difficulty is significantly increased and participation for speedrunning is way down, right? So, but this is just for me, this is what I enjoy. So seeing these variable difficulties changes the way my enjoyment from the game is, right? Because there will be less participation, there will be higher barrier to entry.
I've never thought about that. Like, just the fact that, like, the speedrunning thing is big because the content is easy. Like, and
that's how
you're
it,
not
everyone
going
can
to speedrun
right?
if it's, like, tough.
That's how it is in most games. Like, games that are not hard. Like, think about, like, Ocarina of Time. That's not a hard game. Like, the way that you are good at that game is how fast can you beat it. Like, that's how it always has it. But then, like, Dark Souls is hard, so beating that game is the achievement. Doesn't matter. Like, people still speedrun that game. Don't get me wrong. People speedrun anything, but like in vanilla raids, like, nah, bro. Like, their dungeons have more mechanics. Like, speedrunning is the skill expression in vanilla raids.
All right. Well,
and I would also throw out, like, before we pull the thread on this conversation, for a lot of people, raiding is only, chilling with the boys, trying to get some loot, and then you're done, right? Or you could be like a progress person, like you just want to progress new content. For me, I think people should really try going fast and within your limits, right? Because it lets you look forward to it every week, right? You can always improve it. You can always try different strategies, etc. If you're only playing for progress, you're just waiting for the next phase. If you're only waiting for loot, once you have it, what's there to play for? Right? So, yeah, I don't know.
mean,
I would
parsing guilds could be the same deal, because, like, parsing guilds will, like, go ahead and call a wipe, even though they're going to kill the boss, but they didn't get the full thing, and then they'll, like, log out, wait for cooldowns, like, it's a different, but it's the same concept that they're, like, working towards it. But yeah, dude, I'm with Arcos now. Take out the heat levels.
I mean, we'll have to see how they actually are, right? I am a little bit hesitant to the degree of their design thinking with it.
Yeah, like, the only people asking for harder shit is people that don't actually play the harder stuff. Like, I have all these people in, like, talking about Cata, like, oh yeah, go back to SoD where you don't have to, like, play hard. Guarantee you, all these assholes are just doing normals in Cata, and it's just like, most of the people that are excelling at these aren't wasting their time putting a comment. So, yeah. Sorry, guys, you aren't good, and
they're too busy reforging their heroic items.
So, yeah, I'm totally, like, that was the whole problem with Wrath at the end, like, when they did the slow 5% every 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, if the 30% had come out sooner, if the 30% had come out sooner, people actually would have been might have been a resurgence of speedrunning in ICC.
Jordy was ready to do it. Sarth was ready to do it. There was a bunch of people ready to do it. So, yeah.
I remember them talking about being sad that it's coming out slow, because they're like, yeah, there's nobody's going to speedrun now.
Yep. Okay. So, yeah. Yep. Get rid of the heat levels, guys. You stop. Like, don't listen to the people saying they want harder content. The proof is in the pudding. Go to ironforge.pro. You will see every time harder content comes out, participation goes down. It's literally a trend, and it was a trend back in the day, and it's a trend now. Participation goes down. Stop. There's no point. Stop. That's where I'm at. Any last thoughts before we close this out?
They should delete mages as well.
Say it again.
They should delete mages again as well.
That might be too far.
Here, if Mel was here, I'll throw in her comment. You should delete rogues.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as well.
Everyone should re-roll Boomkin.
Yeah, it's 20 Boomkins and Molten Core. I mean, honestly, that sounds hilarious.
That sounds kind of funny to watch.
It's World of Warcraft, guys, not World of Support spec.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I'm totally back to like, I was always thinking like, oh, throw in extra difficulties for them. They can do it if they want to. I'm done. I'm done with that now. Arcos has changed my mind. Fuck your harder difficulties. No one cares. Ian, whatever, however you. No one cares. Yeah,
I mean,
your dick. We don't care how long it is. Like
they could just
we
pivot
just
with the
want to
heats,
have
man.
fun with our friends. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. That's how I'm ending the podcast.
They just got to pivot with the heats. Heats means races, right? Like use heat when you're talking about races. So speed running.
I actually, you remind me of. I think Agrand tweeted at some point that they wanted to lean a little bit into the speedrunning scene, or like facilitate, the speedrunning scene. So we could all be reading these heats completely differently, and
yeah, maybe it is a thing the whole time.
Maybe it's just a timer like Mythic Plus in retail dungeons.
Ooh.
Maybe you gain a satchel at the end if you beat the timer, and like heat 3 is an hour 30 minutes, heat 1 is 60, and heat 3 is 30. Like that could very well be a thing.
Yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be sick.
Could be cool, and then and make the highest heat level real hard to beat, so it doesn't happen till way later when people gear way up.
Could be. I mean, we did sub 20 minute MCs back in 2020. So if the bosses and the mobs are like buffed as the open world mobs are because of higher character power level, it might take weeks or months to go down to those clear times. But
that's kind of awesome.
I
never even thought of it being something like that. Right?
Just don't do better gear. Just do like mounts and stuff, because we saw in TBC, like even with a bear mount, people got pissy as hell if you didn't hit that like cap. So like definitely don't have it power level related.
I like how everything dropped a goddamn satchel of gems.
Yeah,
have this one drop a gem bag for everyone.
It could just be raw gold. It could be materials like Arcanite bars, arcane crystals, black lotuses. It could be flasks. It could be tabards. One thing that I have suggested time and time again to make fireman dungeons more replayable is to give them the Mythic Plus treatment with just a timer but not difficulty, and give like weekly titles. So like on the weekend, like on Saturday, the weekly competition ends, and the top 3 teams on your server, they get a title that lasts for 7 days, and then a new team gets it, right, for the next one. But it could be these kind of duration things as well. You get a pink tabard this week for beating Heat 1. You get a gold tabard next week for beating Heat 1.
Just lean into the speed.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
man. Like we could keep going on longer, but I can't. I have to record my other podcast. I'm going to start closing us down.
It's 2 a.m. here. I need to go to sleep as well.
Do you feel lonely?
No, I have a
song.
I have kids waking up,
and I feel lonely. Yeah, and I said,
bro,
baby,
I need to wake up with my kids in 4 hours. I relish the time that I don't need to listen to children. So yeah. Not lonely.
All right, we're gonna start to close out. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. If you want to send us an email, it's wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join the Discord, Patreon, any link we have, you should be able to find it at warcraftreloaded.com. Do it there. Help us out. Patreon, reviews, comments, likes, hitting that bell, all of it helps. I am like going to record my second podcast of the day. It's a Chiefs podcast. I don't know how well it will like most of you aren't gonna like jump over, but there are Chiefs fans who write in. So anybody wanting to find that, it's Buck and Bob take on Chiefs Kingdom. That's BUK space and space Bob. Search that on Spotify, iTunes. I haven't got it up on YouTube or anything yet, but I'm working on that. It's a lot to start up a new podcast. Once you have everything set, it's a lot easier, but Yeah, we're starting up new, but the first episodes are out. And if you're into the Chiefs, you should check it out. If you're not into the Chiefs, you should check it out and leave angry comments. And yeah, where can we find you, TableSlam?
You can find me on YouTube at TableSlam or on Twitch at @table_slam.
Nice. And Lubes, where can we find you? The Luminator.
Twitch, IAmLubes, or Twitter, same thing, IAmLubes. I stream very often.
Get that new Twitter. And Arcos.
I do.
Are you streaming?
Yeah, I stream raids on Wednesdays. I might stream periodically on other days and other times, but I am EU time zone, so maybe some of your listeners won't be able to catch me anyway.
Well, why don't you tell us where they can find you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Arcos_TTV.
And you can also find him often on the Countdown to Classic podcast with Josh Corbett. Fantastic podcast. Josh is a little bit of a dick at times, but you know what? That's what makes the show great.
Fucking cunt, man. Jesus Christ, having to listen to that guy. Fuck's sakes, man. It's like you're scratching nails on a chalkboard sometimes.
Oh, but he does it well, and he speaks so well, and he has a lot of different perspectives on the show. The show is absolutely fantastic. So definitely check out Countdown to Classic.
Josh is.
I just talk a lot of shit about him.
Yeah, me too. And you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. You can find me on Twitch and this show live at Blazzinbob. And all right, guys, we're out. Season of Discovery has a lot coming in, and we're excited for it. And yeah, that's going to be it for the show. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much for checking out Warcraft Reloaded Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any future content.